Across Northern Ireland, plenty of blue sky once again, but there will be a touch of frost too, so cold start out there. Some glimmers of sunshine, especially across western areas of England and Wales, but often quite cloudy as we go through the afternoon. So there is going to be a lot of cloud around and some outbreaks of rain, especially across the south and east and across the English Channel too. But there will be some breaks in the cloud, the best of the sunshine once again across Northern Ireland and Scotland. It will be cold here though, with temperatures struggling here at around 5 or 6 degrees, but across the south holding up at around 8 or 9 degrees. So it's going to be another cold start across Northern Ireland and Scotland as we start Tuesday morning with a widespread frost. A lot of cloud across much of England and Wales. Again, thick enough just for some patchy rain and drizzle at times, but for most of us it's largely dry, and as we go through the week, higher pressure remains, but it'll be still largely cloudy with some overnight frost and fog. Bye-bye.
We can expect clear skies, leading to a light and warm day ahead. Lovely. Boxed Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Mark Dolan tonight is your weekend dose of news, debate and entertainment.
This sounds like a wild conspiracy theory.
Don't miss My Big Opinion, Mark Meets, and My Take at 10.
Democracy is a funny old thing.
And we don't do boring, not on my watch. I just won't have it.
Let's go and get another glass of that bubbly. You've earned it.
That's Mark Dolan tonight, Saturday and Sunday, 9 to 11, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently.
It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it?
It's explosive.
I mean, this is very good.
It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial.
And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born.
It's everything you need to kickstart your evening.
Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it.
That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome to State of the Nation, daily plunge into the stories shaping our country. I'm Jacob Rees-Mogg, and Monday to Thursday we bring you the insights, the facts, the truth about how our country is being governed. Because what happens in Downing Street matters down your street. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel, and as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, Will, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Every Saturday, 10 till 12, we'll bring you all of the news that you need to know. We'll also remind you that there is so much to smile about.
It's my favourite time of the week. I get to relax, enjoy some light-hearted stories, and let Ellie teach me about fashion too.
That's Saturday Morning Live, every Saturday, 10 till 12.
Only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Good morning. Turmoil in the Middle East as Bashar al-Assad is toppled in Syria.
The former dictator has now fled to Russia, seeking asylum in Moscow on humanitarian grounds.
Attention now turns to what comes next as Western leaders warn of uncertainty in the region.
That comes as the Prime Minister heads to Saudi Arabia today to drive up investments in the UK and seek closer ties with the Gulf state.
A victim from the Rotherham sex abuse scandal reveals how she's been let down by police again after they lost vital evidence in her case.
Prince William follows in his mother's footsteps as he serves lunch for the homeless at a shelter she took him to as a boy.
A public nuisance or spectacle in the sky. A debate's being held today about whether to ban the sale of fireworks to the general public.
And in the sports, Spurs surrender a 2-0 lead to lose to a very informed Chelsea. And F1 McLaren win their first Constructors' Championship for 26 years, while Max Verstappen is off to do community service in Rwanda.
After an unsettled weekend, we do have higher pressure building to help settle things down. I'll have all the details coming up shortly.
Good morning, it's just gone 6 o'clock. I'm Ben Leo.
I'm Isabel Webster, and this is GB News Breakfast. Oh, so here we are, Monday morning. We all made it through Storm Dara. It was no joke, was it?
No.
I was in a tent on Saturday night at a party, and I thought we were
Hold
going
on,
to be blown away.
Who decided to have a party in a tent on a Saturday night in the middle of the
It's
storm?
one of those semi-permanent marquees attached to a pub, so all the Christmas parties that were being held
More
there.
semi than permanent, I imagine.
Either
during
way,
that.
I thought a tree was going to come through at any point. It was really frightening.
You survived?
We all survived.
So what happened? Did it collapse? Did it come
No, it carried on, but I...
was it the...
Yeah, every now and then there's a whoosh. And I thought, this is not funny.
Wow.
This is how it's all going to end.
I ate my words a bit at the weekend because on Friday and Saturday I was kind of questioning, on air on Saturday morning, I was saying, is a red weather warning really necessary? Is it nanny state? And then yesterday was really bad down
We
south.
weren't even in the red warning area.
No,
Wales was the worst. But
my garden was wrecked. I've got a log cabin at the end of the garden, a little shed, the whole roof blown off, all the tiles off.
What about you? Did you survive?
You know what? Just about. Spurs didn't, but you know, but that's what I'm going to blame it. I'm going to blame it all on the storm. But yeah, just about. I mean, everything's flapping and flying all over the place.
Are we past the worst of it now?
Apparently there's more coming in time for Christmas Day.
Oh, great.
Christmas travel, chaos with more winds on the way. It's something to look forward to.
Oh, wow.
Great.
Right, let's turn our attention, shall we, to the significant news over the weekend. It's been a tumultuous, to say the least, 48 hours in the Middle East after Bashar al-Assad was toppled in Syria by Islamist rebels yesterday.
Assad has fled to the country, heading to Moscow, where he's been granted asylum on humanitarian grounds. That's according to Russian state media.
Well, it comes as Syrians are emptying the streets as rebel forces have imposed a curfew in Damascus after taking control of the capital.
US President Joe Biden has called it a moment of historic opportunity for the long-suffering people of Syria to build a better future.
And in the United Kingdom, Sir Keir Starmer has welcomed the fall of Bashar's barbaric regime.
I welcome the fact that Assad has gone. The Syrian people had to put up with his brutal regime for far, far too long. We're talking to regional allies. It's very important now that there's a political settlement, a political way forward. And it's very, very important that we emphasise that civilians and minorities must be protected in this process. But very, very pleased that Assad has fallen.
OK, so a lot to unravel. Let's get the thoughts now of Defence Editor at the Evening Standard, Robert Fox. Good morning, Robert. Thank you for joining us. Indeed, a lot to unravel. Such a complicated picture in Syria. Just explain in layman's terms what's going on, who's in control, if anybody, and what we may see in the coming weeks.
The collapse of Assad's regime and the collapse of his army in particular took almost everybody by surprise. I was talking to intelligence people yesterday. Yes, we sort of, last week, we sort of saw it coming. Didn't expect the speed. There are all kinds of reasons. The Syrian army wouldn't fight on its own. It had needed the stiffening of Hezbollah, either from Lebanon or from Iraq, and with the full support of Iran. That's gone because the bombing by Israel of Iran was a very serious blow indeed, and the gutting of the leadership of Hezbollah. And it's quite clear Hezbollah, which is originally Lebanese, Shia, didn't want to come to the rescue of Assad. They were always pretty suspicious and they didn't like being his Expeditionary Army and Personal Guard for so long. So that's the collapse. What happens next? Well, we're seeing it now, and it's a vacuum. Because almost everybody, including Russia, the great sponsor of Assad, were taken by surprise. It's very unclear who can take control of the streets and who can take control of the whole country. Unlikely that that's going to happen, by the way. Breakup is on the way.
Very interesting that overnight America has targeted IS sites across Syria. Very clear they don't want IS taking over control. And, of course, we looked at what happened in Afghanistan, where very suddenly we had the Taliban back in power, promising to be more liberal, to be outward-facing and international. And now we have women who can't even walk the streets without a chaperone. So has that intervention from America given an indication of the way they think it might be going?
No, I think it's quite weak, quite late, because it was just one bombing raid against an IS site. Rebels have been very active in the east of the country. They're not pro-IS, and here it gets very complicated, because Jilani, the main leader, but it's a coalition of this, but the main leader, his people have hinted it's going to be a sort of Taliban light in Syria. If they can do it, as I said, it's going to be very doubtful that they can impose their will. The HTS, the main core of this thing, because there are the Kurds, there are all kinds of other elements, about 20 different groups in this alliance. Now, if, I don't want to make it too complicated, but if Turkey, which is quite likely, really have a go at the Kurds, which is what they want to do, the Kurds, they're pretty tough, hold some of the nastiest IS prisoners in their lockups, in their camps, in their concentration, not very pleasant conditions. And they've got a lot of them, including Shamima Begum, by the way, the disenfranchised or made stateless lady from Tower Hamlets.
OK.
What's the risk, finally, just very quickly, Robert, of Syria becoming a failed state, such as Libya?
It is already. That's the thing, they don't really know what to do. And the real danger with that, if we could just add a footnote, is the stuff that they've indulged in, like chemical weapons and so on. That's what the Israelis are very worried about, in particular, that the wrong guys get hold of that, terrorist groups, and there will be a big international effort. The Israelis have struck, even while this was going on, to get at munitions dumps, because although he declared them, and although he said he'd be a good boy and hand over chemical weapons, they always hang on to chemical weapons.
OK, Robert, stay where you are. We'll bring you back in, but I just want to get the thoughts of Theo Usherwood, also joining us this morning. As luck would have it, it just so happens the Prime Minister is flying out to the Gulf today to strengthen sort of economic ties, but also political ties with Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates. But obviously, top of the agenda will have to be the instability in the region. And this is just an escalation of worry, frankly, in an area that seems to be on so many fronts now in trouble.
You heard the Prime Minister there, you got the bit of his interview where you're very cautious about obviously welcoming the fact that Assad is gone. I think Joe Biden did the same. Nobody's doubting the tyranny with which he ruled Syria. His family ruled Syria for more than 50 years. But HTS, this organisation, has a dubious history. Biden's come out and said that he will judge their actions rather than their words. Keir Starmer saying it's early days as to whether they will engage, the British government will engage with HTS. And, of course, the fear will be, from the British government's point of view, that, like Afghanistan, that Syria becomes a sort of hotbed of terrorism, and we end up in this situation where people leave this country to train in Syria, and this already happened, and then return to commit serious terrorist acts in this country. And that's what they don't want to happen. And as as other contributor was saying, there's chemical weapons as well, which is, that adds to the mix and makes it a very, very dangerous, volatile situation.
And if that does happen, there are concerns also that we'll get another migrant wave into Europe of refugees fleeing the chaos. There's, as far as I can see, Theo, a clear distinction between Angela Rayner yesterday doing the rounds, Keir Starmer talking about what's going on in Syria, Angela Rayner praising what's happened, praising the fact that Assad has gone. Donald Trump, meanwhile, the US president-elect, he was tweeting saying, "It's not our fight, don't get involved." So could you see a potential conflict of how the future of Syria looks there between the US and the UK?
Well, I think you're quite right to point to this. Donald Trump has said previously he wants to bring an end to what he called, and Republicans have called, the forever wars that go on and on and on. And he doesn't want American troops becoming embroiled, boots on the ground, like in Afghanistan. And I think that you're quite right to point to that, Ben. It is a difficult situation. We cannot look to the United States, as we have previously done, and think they're going to ride to the rescue and sort it all out, because clearly under Donald Trump he's going to take a very different approach to these conflicts. Having said that, look at previously his stance on Iran, the tough line he's taken on Iran, and there are those who have reasonably argued that part of the volatility that we've seen in the Middle East over the last 4 years has been down to the fact that the US President, Joe Biden, has not taken a similarly hard line against the regime in Tehran.
Let's finish, shall we, Robert, on what feels appropriate, really. What next for Assad? We understand he's harboured by Putin in Moscow. Is that an indication of a weakened Putin? The fact that, A, he wasn't able to prop up Assad in Syria, but also that he is welcoming a butcher, giving him asylum on humanitarian grounds. Is there a world in which Assad may face some sort of justice?
Probably not, but they would shelter dictators. It's very interesting how, despite all the bluster, that Putin is looking a bit like Nobby No Mates, because he's trying to drum up allies, particularly from the close Asia region, his very small Central Strategic Treaty Organisation, CSTO. And it's very, very weak. And the line from Moscow has been, actually, we've got to pull back because we need everything we can get our hands on for the special military operation. And, oh boy, they're losing the equivalent of the British Army, about 70,000 plus every 6 or 7 weeks there at the moment. No, he's in a very, very difficult situation. Grim outlook for the Assad family, because they won't be able to travel anywhere.
So Assad's wife is British-born, isn't she?
Yeah, so she got a British...
Yeah. I mean, is she allowed to come to the UK and claim asylum? Is she
I think not. Blair, of course, played on that, as we all know. He's a recalcitrant, if I could say, because he was offered so many ways out of this along the route, and he turned it down. I think it's going to be very, very difficult to bring any members of the family here, because the reach of international law is spreading. I mean, whatever happens, somebody could serve a private writ were they to be one of the families who consider themselves victims. There are many, many victims of the Assad clan, as was rightly pointed out in your intro, that they'd been in charge for 50 years, since 1970, and a very nasty lot indeed. I have never known British diplomats, 3 prominent ones, to say how awful on a personal basis, because it isn't Assad himself, it's the very nasty entourage he had round him, and they were mass killers.
Well, good riddance, I say. Thank you very much indeed, Robert Fox, to you, and indeed to you, Theo Usherwood, and we'll have more on this later on.
Thank you both. Right, let's move on, because a survivor from the Rotherham abuse scandal has claimed that she's been let down by South Yorkshire Police during an investigation into allegations of coercion, fraud and violent threats.
Tina, which is not her real name, was exploited by gangs as a child, but has exclusively told GB News that she was regroomed as an adult and that the police failed to support her. Our national reporter Charlie Peters spoke with Tina, and this is what she had to say.
Or angry, upset, angry, but for some reason I felt like I had a bit of fight in me for it, because I thought, I can't sit back and let this happen again. I can't let them just chuck me down and do this on my own again.
It was bad enough when you were 12.
It were horrendous.
But again, you were going through the same process.
Yeah.
You're being ignored and neglected by the police while you were being exploited.
And I just know that they're not investigating things correctly. They're not.
South Yorkshire Police Detective Superintendent James Axe, head of professional standards, has said in a statement, it's clear that Tina has suffered a horrendous ordeal which will undoubtedly have a profound impact on her for the rest of her life.
An internal professional standards process is underway in relation to aspects of the handling of this case. In addition, a criminal investigation into the fraud allegations remains live.
This investigation is being reviewed holistically to ensure all of the wider matters raised are taken into consideration and assessed against a criminal threshold.
While these investigations remain ongoing, we are unable to comment any further. We continue to offer Tina support and safeguarding advice and provide updates on the matters she's raised when possible as this work continues.
OK, let's have a look at some of the other stories coming into the newsroom this morning. American rapper Jay-Z has been accused of raping a 13-year-old girl after the 2000 MTV Video Music Awards, allegedly alongside Sean Diddy Combs. An amended lawsuit originally filed in October names Jay-Z as a defendant in the case and details. Jay-Z has denied the allegations on social media, blasting the lawsuit and calling it part of a blackmail attempt. Combs, who's currently in jail on federal sex trafficking charges, to which he's pled not guilty, has denied all allegations made against him.
More than 160,000 homes are without power in the aftermath of Storm Dara over the weekend. Millions were warned to stay indoors as strong winds and gusts were felt right across the country. 2 men were killed by falling trees on their vehicles on Saturday.
And Swedish band ABBA's virtual concert in London has boosted the economy by £1.4 billion since it opened in May 2022. Producers behind the concert are set to sell their 3 millionth ticket as they look ahead to another 2 years of the residency.
I feel like I'm the only person in the whole of London who hasn't been to ABBA Voyage, but you haven't either.
I've not. I was just saying, I'm not really an ABBA fan.
I'm not sure that's allowed.
No?
Why not?
I just never really got into them.
Oh, well, you need to. I think as soon as you start listening to the tunes, you can't help but get into it. I recently introduced my husband to it. Weirdly, he'd not heard many ABBA songs, and he was like, actually, these are absolutely
Maybe there's hope for me yet.
There's hope for you yet.
Maybe we should get down to the concert.
Yeah, let's get to ABBA
Another
Voyage.
2 years of the...
Well, yeah, I mean, it's good news. To think that they chose the UK to host, I mean, they could have gone anywhere. I don't know why they chose us, obviously, because we are such huge ABBA fans. But it's been a welcome addition to our ailing economy anyway. But another 2 years of that. In the meantime, let's see what the weather's going to be up to. Quite enough of this. It's been awful all weekend. Here's Catherine Chalk with your forecast for the week.
Heavy showers first thing will be followed by a warm, cosy day. Boxed boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Good morning. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. After an unsettled weekend, it will still be windy in the south, dry in the north as higher pressure starts building. So it's a cold start across Northern Ireland and Scotland with a touch of frost, but plenty of winter sunshine. Cloudier across much of England and Wales. There will be some breaks in the cloud further west, but we will see some showers, especially across eastern areas and running down the English Channel. And we'll still hold on to quite a brisk breeze here. Highs of up to 8 or 9 degrees in the south, but colder across Scotland. Highs here of 4 to 6 degrees. So as we go through Monday evening, plenty of clear skies as we head into the evening across Scotland, so temperatures will quickly fall away underneath the higher pressure as well, and light winds. We will see a touch of frost and fog developing as we go through this evening. Similar picture across Northern Ireland as well, temperatures quickly falling away to give a touch of frost, but further towards the south across much of England and Wales, holding on to a lot of cloud this evening with some showers just clipping the far southeast and down the English Channel. So as we go through the overnight period, Monday night into Tuesday, plenty of clear skies across Scotland and Northern Ireland, and under the light winds, temperatures will quickly fall. A widespread frost to start Tuesday morning, but holding on to a lot of cloud further towards the south. Lows here of around 5 or 6 degrees. So through Tuesday morning then, a cold start across Scotland and Northern Ireland, but plenty of sunshine. Cloud just coming into the far north of Scotland, but a blanket of cloud across much of England and Wales, perhaps thick enough for some outbreaks of rain and drizzle. But on the whole, many places are staying largely dry with lighter winds compared to the weekend, but it will be feeling cold, especially in Scotland. Highs here struggling at around 3 degrees.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Still to come, King Charles gives an insight into the Queen's coronation over 70 years later, and there's some absolutely fascinating colour.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, absolutely.
Stay tuned for that.
See you in a
This is
moment.
GB News Breakfast, back in a sec.
Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently. It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it? It's explosive. I mean, this is very good. It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial. And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born. It's everything you need to kickstart your evening. Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it. That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent? I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs. That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome to State of the Nation, daily plunge into the stories shaping our country. I'm Jacob Rees-Mogg, and Monday to Thursday we bring you the insights, the facts, the truth about how our country is being governed. Because what happens in Downing Street matters down your street. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Why go out on a Friday night when Friday night comes straight to your home?
Talking about?
Join me and my A-team of top pundits. Chemistry tonight is electric. As we tackle the big stories of the day with wit, insight and fearless energy.
Man of the people.
It's all vibe.
Just a filing cabinet on wheels with a tie on.
So, order in Friday Night Live with me, Mark Dolan, every Friday at 8, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more.
Whether it's breaking royal news,
Will, please bring us up to date.
or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons,
Very, very curious.
we bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent? I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs. That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. Now, King Charles has joked that he felt slightly anxious about his crown wobbling off during his coronation last spring.
His comments were made in an upcoming documentary, Coronation Girls, which follows the story of 50 young Canadian women who were sponsored to sail across the Atlantic to attend the late Queen's coronation in the summer of 1953.
But it comes as the Prince of Wales yesterday visited a homeless shelter where his mother Diana brought him as a child.
We're joined now by former royal butler Grant Harold. Good morning, Grant. Nice echoes of his late mum, Prince William. Of course, he's done lots of homeless projects before, but again, it's nice to see him continuing the trends that his mother started.
Yeah, absolutely. It is nice because I think we've all noticed over the last few years, both of her boys have kind of followed in her footsteps in different ways. And I think the nice thing about Prince William is he's very keen that a lot of his mother's work and legacy continues through what he now does as a full-time working royal now.
And, of course, busy weekend for him. We saw, well, in fact, a few days, obviously, the concert on Friday with his wife, which was a huge success, and then he popped across to the Notre Dame reopening and a bit of soft diplomacy, something the royals do so well with President Trump. And he managed to do that without any controversy, which must be deemed as a success by the government.
Yeah, do you know what's interesting with William is he is very diplomatic. I even remember that when working for him. He was always very, diplomatic, a good head and shoulders. You know, you could always kind of get advice and talk to him about anything, even at a younger age. And it's a huge credit to the royal family, and can I even say the late Queen, because, you know, one thing about him is he carried out the duties as a royal, as you expect. But as you just said, the diplomacy side of him was something that his grandmother also had. you know, that kind of very clever way of being able to kind of, well, treat everybody the same, regardless of who they are, from any walks of life. And that's something that his grandmother also did. So that's obviously been passed on to her grandson.
Grant, there's some amazing colour in the papers this morning from this new documentary documenting the late Queen's coronation in 1953. King Charles talks about how, or he recalls how his late mother gave him and Princess Anne a bath as a child, wearing her coronation crown to practice its weight and to make sure it was stable. It's just a fascinating piece of colour, which I guess you would never have got in yesteryear. Is it part of this new kind of open transparency that we see more and more with the royals now?
It is, and do you know, I think all of us, myself included, even though I work for them, we love kind of seeing these documentaries and kind of going behind closed doors, which is why I even went to work for the family as a teenager, watching one of these documentaries. But The Crown's interesting because I've heard that before. I've heard him actually mention that about his mother giving him a bath wearing the crown. And I always remember the Queen saying that the crown was so heavy that if you leaned if she moved her head too far forward, she was worried that she would break her neck, you know, because it was such a heavy thing. So obviously it has got to be practice, and the fact he also admitted he was a bit concerned about it having a bit of a wobble. I think we all felt that when we watched the coronation at one point, when we saw St Edward's crown getting placed on his head. There was, for a moment, I think everybody was thinking, is that secure? So
Yes.
It's quite nice that he's actually talking about it.
And on Queen Camilla's head as well. It was a bit jaunty for a while, wasn't it?
Yes,
I'm fascinated that you are enjoying this colour as well, because I assumed as a royal butler that you'd have seen these sorts of things, that behind closed doors perhaps it was commonplace for them to be wearing the crown jewels during bath time. I mean, what was the most sort of unexpected insight that you got as a butler that would sort of amaze us in that sort of way?
Do you know, I think it's not really, I don't know if it will surprise you or not. I think the biggest insight I got while working for them was just how behind closed doors, they're just like all of us. They're not, they're just very down to earth, very kind, very kind. That's the other thing I remember is when I went to work for them, I was quite amazed at how they were always concerned about everybody, you know, the staff included. And, you know, I remember in the middle of dinners and things, and suddenly the now king would start asking how I was, how my family was, how my parents are, you know, which kind of surprised me because I didn't expect it to be like that. So I suppose that's the biggest thing. But I'm sorry to say I didn't see any of them walking around, unless they were off to a state dinner or something. I didn't see them walking around in any crowns or anything during the day.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Thanks, Grant.
Thank you, Grant. Always good to talk to you. See you again soon.
Thank you. You too.
I was just reading that documentary Coronation Girls airs in Canada on Boxing Day, and then for the rest of the world, I think, in the days shortly after that. Sounds very good. I hadn't heard that before about the King, well, obviously Prince Charles at the time, having a bath with Princess Anne, but Grant says that it's been out before.
Yeah,
First time I'd heard it.
I hadn't heard it either. Now, you could win £50,000. It won't buy you crown jewels, but it would do you pretty well, I reckon, especially this time of year. It is, of course, tax-free.
Yep, here's all the details you need to kickstart your new year in style.
Imagine getting the call to tell you that you've won £50,000 in tax-free cash, our biggest cash prize of the year.
Good luck indeed. Stay with us, still to come. Paul Coit will be here. You've been enjoying that all weekend, haven't you, all the sports?
I have, but, well, I won't ruin it for you, but yeah, lots of surprise results.
The latest GB News travel.
Good
Good morning, I'm Russell Holding. In South Yorkshire, City Road in Sheffield is closed for an investigation. A number of train services are disrupted this morning after the weekend weather. No service between Holyhead and Chester or between Llandudno and Blaenau Festiniog. Buses replace trains between Stafford and Stoke-on-Trent. There are no trains running into and out of Shrewsbury, Bromsgrove or Carmarthen. In Ceredigion, the A44 is closed east of Pontywydd because of a fallen tree. In Powys, the A490 remains closed off the A483 south of Coed-y-Dinas because of flooding. In Hampshire, the A343 is closed because of a fallen tree between Ashmansworth and Highclere. In Kent, the A21 is closed off junction 4 of the M25 after an accident. And in Devon, the A39 is closed because of a fallen tree between Sherwell and Kentisbury. That's the latest.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website, gbnews.com.
Martin Daubney, weekdays from 3 p.m.
Locals in Abingdon in Oxfordshire have signed a petition to keep the name of their local pub, and it's called The Midget. Now, this comes after a university lecturer led an 11-month campaign to change the name of the pub, and the owners, Green King, have caved in. But locals are fighting back, and GB News spoke to one resident, Leanne Thompson, for her thoughts earlier today.
I'm not feeling great about it, to be honest. You know, it's a pub that's been here for a very long time. It's called The Midget after a MG car, and they're changing it to the Roaring Raindrop, which a lot of people are not happy about. We know why they're changing it, but a lady apparently came in who was very upset at the offensive term for the name midget. But nobody here sees it as an offensive term. You don't see the midget and feel any kind of offence towards that. It's named after a car. If she was to actually come, she might actually know more about it, but apparently she's not even been into the pub. She's just heard about it and broadcasted on social media that she wanted the name changed because it's offensive, which as locals don't feel that way. It's the midget. It will always be the midget. And if you look, it's even still on Midget Close. So I don't know if they're going to change it to the Roaring Raindrop Close.
Do you know, you should walk into the Midget now and go, do you serve shorts? And just keep going on the joke. It's named after a car, the MG Midget, that was manufactured in the town of Abingdon for a while. The car was released in 1961. The Boozer was built in 1974, giving huge pride to the area. It wasn't named after midgets, you know, the Snow White and the 7 vertically challenged individuals variety. It's named after a car.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Time now to go through all the sport. Paul Coit is here with those surprising results.
I haven't seen Is it Voyage or Voyage?
Not Voyage.
Aber Voyage.
If it was Swedish, it would be, I don't know, Voyagi or something.
Yeah, exactly. See, I was a member of the Aber fan club, by the way.
Were you?
I had a little badge and everything.
Right. I mean, they are awesome.
So you've been?
No, I haven't been yet.
Oh, sorry.
I actually haven't been.
Oh.
So, well, the three of us.
Team outing?
I think so.
Okay.
I think so.
I'll stay here.
But you don't know many of the songs. I can't believe that.
No, I do. I know all the songs.
Yeah, you do.
Waterloo. Yeah, I know all the songs.
Yeah, that's one.
Dancing Queen.
Yeah, two.
Anymore?
There's your big uns.
Dancing Queen, Waterloo.
What about the deep cuts? Huh?
No, that's
Money, Money, Money.
Oh yeah, of course, yeah.
There's so
no,
many.
I like the songs when they come up. I just don't like ABBA enough to go out to maybe a concert or to.
Well, Ben, I'm nothing special. In fact, I'm a bit of a bore when I tell her. Right, Spurs 3, Chelsea 4. Let's go on to that, shall we?
Oh, you blew that, didn't you?
Yeah, enough of ABBA. Spurs 3, Chelsea 4. I was just trying to avoid the obvious.
Singing.
But Spurs went 2-0 up. And, again, just can't seem to hold on to a lead. But I've got to tell you, and Chelsea, I think, are proper contenders this year. You know, there's a lot of people think, Chelsea, I'm not really sure, but I think they're a
Cole Palmer was asked that last weekend and he screwed his face up as if to say, don't ask me such a silly question.
It's, you know, and Cole Palmer, he's broken a record, the best 100% penalty conversion rate. And when I say the best 100% penalty conversion rate, it means that now he's scored 12 out of 12. The record was before 11, and the last one was, now I've mentioned this, I don't know whether, Isabel, you remember this, but a Panenka. You remember a little Panenka?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
The little Panenka, and that's what it's with, a little dink there, and it's just taken
I love
a
a
bit.
Panenka dink.
It was, but I tell you, this kid is unbelievable. Now, Enzo Maresca, who's the manager of Chelsea, he came in and I said right here, oh, yeah, this guy's not going to work. It's just never going to happen. How wrong was I? And he's just changed things around. He's got them organised. They're playing fantastic football. He was asked yesterday, does he think that Chelsea are Premier League title contenders? This is what he had to say.
If you start to think in 2 games, in 3 games, in 4 games where we are, it's completely wrong. So the main focus has to be now enjoy the day off with the family, with the friends. When we come back, go again, 100%, train well, go for the game, no more than that. The rest, we are happy that our fans, they are happy. They can dream, they can think everything, because from outside, there is not, it's quite clear. Also inside, the reality is that, I said many times, that for me, we are not ready to be there. But the important thing is that we improve day by day.
What you've always got to say, nah, we're not ready. It's not really our time. But inside, you're thinking we're in with a good shot at this.
Can you believe, by the way, that Cole Palmer wasn't starting at the Euros?
Well, I know.
What a gaffe.
The thing is it a gaffe? He's young. Going forward, there's not going to be any question. I mean, he's arguably the best English player playing at the moment. I think he's fantastic. Fulham won, Arsenal won, so Arsenal needed a win. Arteta says they deserve to win in every aspect of the game, but, you know, he's always going to say that. Ipswich won, Bournemouth 2. And poor Ipswich, again, right at the death. Goal goes in, like 95th minute it was. So Bournemouth beat Ipswich and Leicester 2, Brighton 2 was the other result from yesterday.
What about the F1?
Yeah, what do you... I mean, you're a big F1 fan. I mean, it's really, I think, it's not so much about Lando Norris winning the race, is it? It's about McLaren.
Yes.
It's about McLaren winning the Drivers' Championship.
In a very long time.
In the Constructors' Championship.
The 90s?
Yeah, 26 years. 26 years since they've won it.
I'm happy for them.
I think everybody is. I think everybody's happy for them. It's just the fact that the story is that they were close to bankruptcy, and you know they're based here, and they were the slowest team on the grid this time, or at the start of last season. Yeah. Nobody gave them a hope, and things just turned around.
What a turnaround.
They've done so well. It's down to Brown and Stella, and they're the second oldest team that are on the grid, apart from Ferrari, that have been around the longest. And the pressure was really on Lando Norris, wasn't it, yesterday? Because Oscar Piastri, he went out pretty early, taken out by...
Max.
Guess who?
Max took him out.
Guess who?
I don't think that was Max's fault, though.
You don't think so?
No.
It's never Max's fault, though, is it? It's never Max's fault.
As they call it, a racing incident. I don't blame Max.
That's what it is.
You say it's never Max's fault, but he's in trouble, isn't he? He's off to do some community service.
Oh, yeah, what is this?
In Rwanda. How about that?
Is
this the swearing incident?
Yeah.
Oh.
So he swore... When was it? It was before... it was Singapore, was it? It was the Singapore Grand Prix. So he was on it, he was swearing, and it's like, well, you're going to be punished for that. So they're sending him off to... I don't know why I'm laughing. They're sending a work of public interest, sending him off to Rwanda. And even this seems bizarre. So what he's doing, he's working with junior drivers and grassroots development in Rwanda, and this is the Rwanda Automobile Club. There is such a thing, and they have these young drivers, and so they send Max out there, I don't know, to help them along, help them with their future, and it's their own little FIA community service.
I never would have thought there's a racing club in Rwanda. Is there karting tracks?
Well, I have no idea. This is what I've found out, is that that's where he's being sent. And it's grassroots. And the thing is, you know, racing is a lot different from other sports where it's just, you know, young kids can do it. I mean, you've got to have a few quid to actually get going in there.
I find the whole thing very bizarre. I don't think he should have been punished anyway for swearing. It was in a press conference, wasn't it?
It was in a press conference.
It wasn't on the team radio. I mean...
Well, yeah, but it depends on the swearing and the swearing. Was it really, really bad swearing?
I think it was just an F word, wasn't it?
Well, I don't know. There's ranked. Where do we rank that?
That's pretty bad.
That's a A-list swear word?
Probably an
A-list swear word.
A.
Yeah.
But it's the wider debate.
If you'd used other words, you should have seen where he was going to be sent. It would have been much worse. Yeah. I wouldn't even dream of saying.
It's the wider debate about are sportsmen role models?
I think the answer is 100%.
I don't think so.
I think they are.
Yes.
I think they are.
I tell you why, Ben, and I think... And I've spoken to sports people that I'm friends with that disagree with me, and obviously you do as well. I think it comes with the territory. I think if you find yourself as a sports person, automatically... I mean, if you have young kids that looked up to you, and I'm sure there are, you wouldn't go, nothing to do with me. You'd feel a responsibility to them, wouldn't you? You just would, because you're a decent guy.
Yeah, well...
Are you?
It's been argued.
But listen, seriously, I think whether they like it or not, they are role models, and I don't think they have a choice.
Can we talk about the Ice Cross Championships?
I've got a new favourite sport.
Yes?
I do. I have a new favourite sport. Have a look at this. See what you think of this. Ice Cross World Championships in Val Thorens in France, which, by the way, I'm sure you all know is Europe's highest ski resort. Now, look at this. It's all pushy, it's fighty, it's fast, it's fun. Look at this.
I like this.
Michael Urban
like
from the
ice
Czech Republic.
kind of people, but without sticks, it looks like. Or
Yeah,
am I
look at
getting
them.
that
So
wrong?
they're dressed like ice hockey players, and that's probably the skates that they use. So that's it. And look I love the way it's lit. I like the way it is. 330 metres, natural ice piste. And so they go on tour. And so this is the first one in the World Championships. And look at this.
Yeah.
You can imagine it. It's almost like rollerball.
What nationality was that at the front?
He's Czech Republic.
Czech. He's absolutely smashing it.
Isn't it? Just, yeah.
And Val Thorens looks like it's snowing because lots of people are off to go skiing in the next week or so and there's no snow. But obviously, as you say, it's really high up.
High up, and that's where it is.
Good news then, because if people need snow this Christmas up in the Alps.
You know what? I'm looking for a new sport to do and a new sport to follow.
Ice cross is the one.
McLaren can turn things round in a year. I think I can do the same thing with ice cream.
I'll race you, Paul.
OK, let's...
Me and you, one-on-one.
We'll go to Queen's. We'll go to Queen's Ice Rink. We'll start there, and then we'll see how we go.
I don't know who I'd back to win that, actually. I'd like to...
Oh, come on, Isabel.
I'm going to have to go Coity, because we've got long-standing friendship there. Well, I can't be disloyal to my, teammate here.
I'm talented. I've got balance. I'm tough. There's never any question.
Did you ever rollerblade as a kid?
You know what? Yes, I did.
Did you?
I did.
Did you?
Not as a kid, though, as an adult.
I was going to say, I've chosen the right horse to back here.
No, let's organise this. I'm not having that.
I can see the GBNews cameras rolling.
Bring it on.
Right, we're going to pause whilst these two thrash it out. We've got Dawn Newsroom.
The testosterone in here is unbelievable.
Let's get Chris Akabusi, the real professional athlete, involved as well. He'll be here looking at what's making the news in just a moment.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Well, joining us now is Feng Shui expert Karina Sophia, who's going to share some of the best ways to ensure that our homes are still feeling calm as well as beautifully decorated this Christmas time.
One of the Feng Shui myths is that Feng Shui is all about moving furniture, and it isn't at all. Oh. Well, there is a little bit of that. It is about the flow of energy, but it starts outside, so there's lots of different forms of Feng Shui. So what we're going to talk about today is one form called Flying Stars Feng Shui, and there's another one that's classical, and form Feng Shui starts outside. If a 5-year-old would walk past your house and be happy, then the energy will.
I love that.
So if a 5-year-old would like to see more, would like to come in and would touch anything and not get hurt, then it's a good thing and the energy is feeling good and wants to come in as well.
What about the light colours? Does that matter? Does that come into play?
Yes, there are different colours. Depending on the direction, the compass direction of your home, there are good colours that support the energy inside the home. So if your home is facing north, for instance, then it would be sitting south, and the inherent energy of the south is fire. So you want to have a red or green, which is wood that fuels the fire, and that supports the inside of the home. Now, I just painted my door red a couple of days ago, and then I got this opportunity, so don't underestimate it. You want to decorate your tree with whatever you want to manifest. Whatever it is that you want to bring into your life. So this speaks for itself. It says joy.
Oh.
And it has a little bell
I
on
like
it.
that idea. I can get on board with this. So you decorate your tree with things you'd like to see in your life.
Yes.
OK.
So we're going to put some joy.
That would be nice.
GB News, the People's Channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
We're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
If you want your news to be straight talking... This is the nightmare for the Conservatives again. Down to earth. It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it? And most importantly, honest. Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get the book thrown at them. Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back, 6:44. Ben and Isabel with you on GB News Breakfast, and we're also joined by Chris Akabusi and Dawn Newsroom in the studio. Good morning to you both.
Good morning.
Shall we start with the only story of the day, I guess, the big story? Syria has fallen, well, Assad's fallen anyway. Dawn, your take on this? He's seeking refuge in Moscow.
It seems him and his wife and their 3 children have fled to Moscow, which, as we know, has backed the regime in Syria for a while. It's interesting. It is on the front of every single paper, bar 2. I think the Daily Mail's probably is the best, from a journalistic point of view, the best one. Assad is toppled, but it's worse to come, ? And I think that is the big question everybody should be asking themselves this morning. Yes, the Syrians seem ecstatic. It was the most brutal, oppressive regime. And you see some of the pictures of people being released from the prisons, including toddlers.
I saw that.
I mean, it's just heartbreaking what was going on there. However, this now creates a vacuum, and we all know what happens in vacuums. There are various, the political commentators were saying this earlier on, but various factions fighting in Syria now. And I looked, in particular for me, Isabel, it was the pictures of the young women celebrating.
Yeah. All dressed in beautiful, brightly coloured.
Exactly,
Syrian
fantastic,
dress.
Yeah, beautiful.
Long may that continue. The fear, of course, is that ISIS may
exactly. I mean,
control.
The group that have taken power at the moment are, originated from Al-Qaeda. They have distanced themselves from, but they're an Islamist group. And I just think what happened to the women and girls, and is still happening to the women and girls in Afghanistan.
Yeah.
And I look at these young women celebrating, and I think, I hope to God that it goes well, but I just worry.
It's a worry, and significantly, the Americans have bombed IS sites across Syria overnight, hopefully weakening their position. Because at the end of the day, the speed of this toppling of Assad has meant that there is this army that has been propping up his regime with all of their arsenal available to whoever might take it into their control. We've seen the Americans acting swiftly to go for these IS targets. We've also seen the Israelis going for where some of these alleged chemical weapons have been, because heaven forbid they get into the wrong hands as well. It just creates even more of a tinderbox in the Middle East, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I think personally that... so my parents came from a war-torn country, Nigeria, and what you have global players who are backing small tribalistic groups on the ground, and we from the West generally don't really know what's going on down there. So we can see a whole group of Syrians or Nigerians celebrating freedom, but not knowing the oppression of the groups below them that are not free. So I'm always weary when I see this sort of stuff. I think of the major players, Russia, Iran. What's their role in this? What will their role be going forward? As you said, in the vacuum, who's going to emerge? We've got to be aware of Al-Qaeda, ISIS. They've all come out of similar scenarios in areas. So the whole area is a tinderbox. I worry. Hopefully, it will all be well in the end.
Yeah. Dawn, what do you make of, just finally, what do you make of Labour's position? Because Angela Rayner was doing the rounds yesterday, and she was saying, she was praising Assad's departure and so on and so on. In actual fact, Jelani, the chap who's now led this rebel revolution, he founded a group called the Al-Nusra Front, who have committed many, many war crimes within their own right. He was part of Al-Qaeda. He's praised 9/11. He praised the Charlie Hebdo attacks and the Bataclan attacks. So it's not as if we've got some new morally...
No, I mean, this is the problem. I mean, Jelani has tried to distance himself from that. He has distanced himself from Al-Qaeda. He's started dressing, ironically, like Assad, in smart suits and taking the turban and the war clothes off, etc., etc. So he's trying to go for a more moderate thing. But we heard all this from the Taliban.
Exactly.
The new cuddly feminist Taliban.
Yeah.
Well, the Taliban, of course, who went to COP29. That's
indeed, Ben. But the one fact I did, and it just stayed in my head, is that guns in Syria are more commonplace than umbrellas in England.
Oh, my gosh.
And that is worrying.
Puts it all into context,
doesn't it? Just, really?
Let's turn our attention to something more homeward-looking, shall we, Chris? This is inside the Mail, and it's about, I suppose, the rise of digital ID. From the spring, smartphones are going to be used to prove the age of drinkers in pubs.
Yeah. So, again, for me, underlying this, I see thin edge of the wedge, 2030, World Economic Forum, everyone or nothing and be happy. Look, we're in a digital age. It's going to come. And my fear is that there will be one day when you cannot buy and sell without having your digital ID number. And these are the ideal people to get hold of. These are the young people who who were at school, youngsters through COVID, used to using digital IDs. And to prove your age, well, actually, to prove who you are, you will just scan your phone, you've got a QR code, and we'll know you're the right age. But for me, it's just the onset of this creeping global state where our digital currency, digital IDs, and you won't be able to do anything without the state knowing who you are, where you're going, who you're going with, what you're spending. This is my fear.
Yeah.
Whether it's irrational or not, this is my fear.
Dawn, I don't think it's that irrational if you look at places like China where they have social credit systems linked to their digital yen. If you, for example, on the social credit system, if you get a parking ticket or if you have a row with your neighbour or don't put your bins out or you criticise the Communist Party, your social credit score goes down. And once that happens, if you try and travel to, say, a neighbouring city or want to fly abroad, you may find that you're not able to do that because you haven't been a good enough citizen. So I guess that's where Chris is.
Yeah, 100%. No, it is worrying. But, I mean, the thing is, we're naive if we don't think that everybody knows everything about us from these phones in any case. I mean, younger generations, I mean, do everything on their phone. Yeah. I mean, they're banking, they're travelling. I mean, these phones know where you are, what you're doing, what you're spending already.
And there's a big argument that part of the immigration crisis that we're facing in this country is because we're so reluctant to get digital IDs, whereas they're commonplace in most parts of Europe. And these guys who are crossing the channel legally are well aware of that.
Yes.
They can claim they've lost their paperwork, and guess what? They get 2 years languishing in nice hotels.
And again, see, listen to me. That is actually, for me, one of the main reasons why throughout all of our papers, throughout the political discourse, all we're talking about is immigration, because there will come a day when we, the people, will go, yes, please, 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 can we have our barcode, please, please, in order to stop this, do this, stop that, and eventually we'll wake up in some sort of digital prison and think, how did we get here? Absolutely. I agree with you with the immigration challenges. That is why we're hearing so much about it, in my opinion.
Plus, with this one, I mean, kids on phones are far more intelligent than the older generation, the people that were checking their ID in pubs and things like that. I mean, kids have been forging their age ID for decades. They're going to find a way around this.
Let's talk about this police chief warning to the Home Secretary about her funding plans. We've actually got the shadow policing minister on from the Tories just after 7 o'clock. But what are they saying to the government, to Labour on this?
This comes after Keir Starmer gave that speech, reset, whatever the hell it was, in Pinewood last week, announcing plans to put 13,000 additional officers and PCSOs and special constables on the beat. That was one of the things he, I think, said. No one's quite sure what he actually said. But basically, chief constables are predicting that the shortfall in police funding settlement due to be announced this week will mean major reductions in officer and staff numbers. So Labour are talking a good talk, but the devil is always in the details. And what it means is that these announcements, the forces are going to have to actually axe more police officers than they're going to employ, because the figures are massaged. So the new policing officers are going to come from the ones that are already there in any case, so it's moving people around. And, of course, they've already announced that there's going to be a 4.75% police pay award, and the chief constables of several areas are saying, well, where's the money coming from? We can't afford that. To afford that pay rise, we're going to have to get rid of officers.
Yeah, lots of criticism, Chris, that most of these new police officers being recruited are special constables. Yeah. Are you clear on what powers special constables have compared to, say, normal coppers?
No,
I think they have the full razzmatazz. They can arrest people and so on and detain people. But that's the criticism coming from the Conservatives.
Yeah, but I'm assuming that the special constables will work in tangent and cooperation with fully fledged constables. I mean, they're not going to go out on their own and do their own thing. So I suppose there'll be an addendum to the station, wherever they are, so have that sort of, if I don't know if supervision is the right word, but, you know, have people who are long dyed in the wool.
Well, my other problem with this story and about these additional police officers that aren't really additional already, but if there are genuinely additional police officers, right, where are they all going to work? Bearing in mind, we've closed all our police stations down. I mean, where are they going to work? Are they just going to work from the local, I don't know, Starbucks?
Work from home.
Work from home.
One of the chief constables in Lincolnshire is quoted in the Mail as saying this is going to result in a significant deterioration in services due to an untenable situation. I mean, can things deteriorate much more? Well, pretty much a certain number of crimes go without facing any sanction. Just because the government aren't going to be on the programme this morning, they've declined to give us a round. We should quote what they're claiming about all of this. They say that Yvette Cooper has announced a rise of over £500 million of funding for policing next year, with a core grant increase of more than £260 million.
Across all the police forces.
Thank you both. You'll be back in the next hour. Hopefully the wind has gone away for a bit, because it absolutely ravaged the country over the weekend. Let's get a weather update with Catherine Chalk.
Despite the morning rain, it'll be a nice, warm, cosy day ahead. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Good morning. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. After an unsettled weekend, it will still be windy in the south, dry in the north as higher pressure starts building. So it's a cold start across Northern Ireland and Scotland with a touch of frost, but plenty of winter sunshine. Cloudier across much of England and Wales. There will be some breaks in the cloud further west, but we will see some showers, especially across eastern areas and running down the English Channel. And we'll still hold on to quite a brisk breeze here. Highs of up to 8 or 9 degrees in the south, but colder across Scotland. Highs here of 4 to 6 degrees. So as we go through Monday evening, plenty of clear skies as we head into the evening across Scotland, so temperatures will quickly fall away underneath the higher pressure as well, and light winds. We will see a touch of frost and fog developing as we go through this evening. Similar picture across Northern Ireland as well, temperatures quickly falling away to give a touch of frost, but further towards the south across much of England and Wales, holding on to a lot of cloud this evening with some showers just clipping the far southeast and down the English Channel. So as we go through the overnight period, Monday night into Tuesday, plenty of clear skies across Scotland and Northern Ireland, and under the light winds, temperatures will quickly fall. A widespread frost to start Tuesday morning, but holding on to a lot of cloud further towards the south. Lows here of around 5 or 6 degrees. So through Tuesday morning then, a cold start across Scotland and Northern Ireland, but plenty of sunshine. Cloud just coming into the far north of Scotland, but a blanket of cloud across much of England and Wales, perhaps thick enough for some outbreaks of rain and drizzle. But on the whole, many places are staying largely dry with lighter winds compared to the weekend, but it will be feeling cold, especially in Scotland. Highs here struggling at around 3 degrees.
There will be a light breeze in the morning, leading to a warm front. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB.
The latest GB News travel.
Good morning, I'm Russell Holding. In County Down, the A2 is closed in both directions north of Donegal because of fallen power cables. Stena Line sailings are cancelled between Holyhead and Dublin because of a technical problem. There's disruption to a number of train services this morning, mostly because of the weather, with no service between Holyhead and Chester or between Llandudno and Blaenau for Stiniog. Buses replaced trains between Stafford and Stoke-on-Trent because of emergency engineering works, and trains have been stopped between Stafford and Rugby, where overnight engineering works have overrun. There's also no service on a number of lines to and from Shrewsbury, Bromsgrove and Carmarthen. In Hampshire, the A343 is closed between Ashmansworth and Highclere because of a number of fallen trees. And in Kent, the A21 is closed westbound off junction 4 of the M25 at Orpington after an accident causing delays. And that's the latest.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website, gbnews.com.
It's our festive treat to you. Your chance to win an incredible £50,000 in tax-free cash. Our biggest ever Great British giveaway. Good luck.
Why go out on a Friday night when Friday night comes straight to your home?
Talking about?
Join me and my A-team of top pundits. Chemistry tonight is electric. As we tackle the big stories of the day with wit, insight and fearless energy.
Man of the people.
It's all vibe.
Just a filing cabinet on wheels with a tie on.
So, order in Friday Night Live with me, Mark Dolan, every Friday at 8, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently. It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it? It's explosive. I mean, this is very good. It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial. And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born. It's everything you need to kickstart your evening. Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it. That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good morning. Turmoil in the Middle East as Bashar al-Assad is toppled in Syria.
The former dictator has now fled to Russia, seeking asylum in Moscow on humanitarian grounds.
Attention now turns to what comes next as Western leaders warn of uncertainty in the region.
That comes as the Prime Minister is heading to Saudi Arabia today to drive up investment in the UK and to seek closer ties with the Gulf state.
A victim from the Rotherham sex abuse scandal reveals how she's been let down by the police again after they lost vital evidence in her case.
Prince William follows in his mother's footsteps as he serves lunch for the homeless at a shelter that she took him to as a boy.
The American rapper Jay-Z is accused of raping a 13-year-old girl after the MTV Video Music Awards 2 decades ago. He's denied the allegations and said his heart is broken for his wife Beyoncé and their family.
A public nuisance or a spectacle in the sky? A debate's being held today about whether to ban the sale of fireworks to the general public.
And in the sport, Chelsea are looking like title contenders, whether they admit it or not, as Arsenal stutter at Fulham. Another F1 season comes to an end, and West Ham's Mikel Antonio is recovering from surgery after his car crash at the weekend.
After an unsettled weekend, we do have higher pressure building to help settle things down. I'll have all the details coming up shortly.
It's just gone 7:01. I'm Isabel Webster.
And I'm Ben Leo, and this is GB News Breakfast. I don't know if you guys saw over the weekend this tweet from various people comparing our Christmas tree in Trafalgar Square to that of one at the Rockefeller Center in New York. Have we got the picture? Here we go. Let's
oh,
there we go. Ours is on the right. That's Trafalgar Square, and the left is the one in New York. And
it's a bit wobbly, isn't it? It's a little bit wobbly, our one.
It's been called a corn on the cob.
Yeah.
I just don't understand why we can't have the same as the one on the left.
I feel like you guys have both got it in for the Trafalgar
Drives me crazy.
Christmas tree.
What do you think of that?
Well, I mean, it is a bit long and thin and lanky.
It's because
But Trafalgar Square, absolutely, is so much grander than wherever that is, the Rockefeller Centre. And, you know, the tree still looks fabulous if you drive past.
I don't think it does. I think it deserves something
I'm just trying to be
better.
pro-British here.
See, the whole thing...
Square.
If everybody that watched Blue Peter when I did, back when I was a kid, every year they would talk about this, that it was a gift from Norway after the war.
Yes.
So every year, Norway is a way of thank you, give this tree. But there's got to be a point where we say, thanks, but you know what? You know, can we put the tree somewhere else this year?
Maybe it's a sort of backhanded gift now. They're sort of spurning us. But, yeah, you're right. The tree does look better over Rockefeller, but we've got the better backdrop.
Well, you were saying, Coity, that the rest of the trees in London look great.
I was walking around London on Friday. I saw some magnificent... They look amazing around Canary Wharf, around Liverpool Street. And this one, I think it's the lights. They just have these lights. They just hang down and they've got... That's it.
It does look a bit sweet corny.
It needs a little more.
Let us know at home where you stand on the whole debate, which one you prefer, and whether or not you're with these guys.
Ours could be up there. I think if we just had some new lights with maybe some different colours, as you said, ours would be up there.
I think it needs to be a bit thicker.
Something thicker.
Yeah.
If we can just ask Norway, just say, look, next time, can we have one of the large?
Yeah, one of your bigger ones, that'd be great. All right, thank you.
Thanks, Coity. Right, a tumultuous 48 hours in the Middle East as Bashar al-Assad is toppled in Syria by Islamist rebels.
Well, Assad has now fled the country, heading to Moscow, where he's been granted asylum on, would you believe, humanitarian grounds. That's according to Russian state media.
And it comes as Syrians are emptying the streets as rebel forces impose a curfew in Damascus after taking control of the capital.
Well, the American President Joe Biden has called it a moment of historic opportunity for the long-suffering people of Syria to build a better future.
And in the UK, Sir Keir Starmer's welcomes the fall of Bashar's barbaric regime.
I welcome the fact that Assad has gone. The Syrian people had to put up with his brutal regime for far, far too long. We're talking to regional allies. It's very important now that there's a political settlement, a political way forward, and it's very, very important that we emphasise that civilians and minorities must be protected in this process. But very, very pleased that Assad has fallen.
Well, joining us now is the political commentator Theo Usherwood and the defence editor at The Standard, Robert Fox. Welcome to both of you. Robert, if I can start with the question, you know, obviously Assad has escaped with his life to the welcome embrace of another dictator over in Russia. What happens now for Syria? The fact that we've seen the Americans out bombing IS sites overnight in Syria gives us an indication that they do not want to see a resurgence of formerly Al-Qaeda, now IS, in the region.
There's been quite a light touch, American and British and French presence of forward-looking observation, surveillance, because they're very worried about what the insurgencies and the volatility from Lebanon right the way through Syria and Iraq. And I can't see that going away, despite what Donald Trump is saying. Donald Trump doesn't like wars. He doesn't like long wars, least of all. And he did pull back. But he was burnt, I think, by the really very powerful ambitions of Turkey. And once I start talking about it, it gets so complicated. This is a mosaic, and I think we're not taking this seriously enough. Full of minorities, it's very difficult to see there's going to be a majority group that can take over Syria and run it as a unity. And it's part of Syria's history. But why it's important for us is exotic weapons, too many nasty weapons around. One, the possibility of terrorism, refugees, and this being another frozen war, which has suddenly become unfrozen, and they spread very quickly. It's, sorry to mix metaphors, but it's known in strategic circles as a black swan or a Friday surprise, because this time it's like the Houthis that popped up, and people didn't take the Houthis seriously. They didn't take this seriously enough. Last week they were saying, yes, we knew something was going on in Idlib, and we knew HTS was building itself. But you listen to commentators, or the airwaves have been full of it, saying this time last week that Assad was solid. Yeah. The Russians would back him, and the Russians started bombing, and it was absolutely no good. One of the big questions is how many Russian military are trapped now in Syria. But the fact that Putin's ambitions in the region have been thwarted should be no comfort, because he might do something really crazy.
Robert, there seems to be this narrative forming that this chap who led the rebel forces, al-Jilani, who he founded the al-Nusra Front, which was the Syrian wing of al-Qaeda. He's been in al-Qaeda before. He praised the 9/11 attacks. He praised the Charlie Hebdo and the Bataclan attacks. There seems to be this narrative that he's some sort of a moderate jihadist, and he is the future of the country, if indeed he can make it so. But the issue is, I mean, as I said, he's praised terror attacks in the past, and there's 500,000 Christians currently in Syria, not least in Aleppo. What happens to those Christians? Are they safe? He says they'll be safe, but can we trust them?
Well, they are always under threat as a minority. They always have been, and they've always come up last of the main sects in the region. But Jilani is fascinating because he said all this, but people are saying behind him he really wants a kind of Taliban-light regime in Syria. But just look at what he's done. Look at his PR. It's a lot better. This isn't the dark days of the Taliban leadership. This guy is clever. He knows how to play the media, and he's probably read from the playbook of Osama bin Laden, who was brilliant up to a point, and then he alienated far too many people. And I think this guy is fly. It depends how much he thinks he can get there by diplomacy. He's got to establish a regime. He's got to establish revenue and funding, and he will probably see one of the things that really brought down the Assad regime and the Assad family, indeed, was drugs, getting so heavily involved in the drugs trade, because we've heard a lot about Bashar al-Assad. We haven't heard about his extremely tough brother, Maher, who ran the 4th Infantry Division and ran, my understanding, a lot of the drugs trade within the armed forces. So it's kind of big can of worms, the whole thing.
There's footage of his brother actually personally opening fire on protesters against the Assad regime, including children. I mean, that gives you a sense of the kind of...
Well, I have a personal kidney against Maher because he was in charge of the division that killed Marie Colvin, who was my friend.
I'm so
sorry to say that, Robert.
Right, well, just as sort of, chance would have it, our Prime Minister is jetting into the Middle East today. He wants to shore up economic ties with Saudi Arabia and UAE. But, of course, absolutely front of the agenda has to be what's happened over the last 48 hours.
Yes, I mean, absolutely, Isabel. Front and centre of this trip is going to be questions, more questions for the Prime Minister, Keir Starmer, about what next for Syria. Now, you've already heard him cautiously say that, there may be some way of politically engaging with HTS in Syria. Of course, everybody, including Angela Rayner yesterday, right across government and indeed the West, has welcomed the fall of Assad. That is good news, but it is that power vacuum, and this could be for Keir Starmer, but also for our intelligence services working to protect this country, to make sure that Syria doesn't become a hotbed for terrorism, which is then exported to places like Britain, as well as, of course, we could see a significant uptick in the migrant crisis across Europe, which could have a knock-on effect in the English Channel as well. So there are lots of issues in play.
Mosaic, as Robert was calling it, which is just the perfect description. I just want to pick up on something you said to me in the advert break. Obviously the Prime Minister flying into Saudi. Interesting how they've had this kind of PR turnover. Obviously they've got a more liberal, outward-facing sheikh in power at the moment. Prince, I can't remember his full title.
Bin Salman, but he was
there you go.
dubious record too.
Yes, well, he obviously is sort of more in touch with Western leaders. But you were saying actually quite keen to get nuclear weapons. Now.
This has been going on because Trump, previous British Prime Ministers, have seen Saudi Arabia and the UAE as the key to resolving the crisis in Gaza, because they want to revive, and Trump will try and do this, the Abraham Accords. It's quite clear why Starmer is going there, because he wants money, he wants support, he wants Saudi Arabia to buy into a lot of defence projects. But I would like to say to my colleagues here is that what this is saying, big headlines, is that Starmer has got to rethink his security and foreign policy. When you have a head of intelligence saying, I can only choose to do one thing, I've got to major on subversion from Russia and park my terrorists, well, Mr. Terrorist is out there potentially coming up from this crisis. And the fact that they're not prioritising the wider aspect of defence, security and resilience, as seeing it as secondary, as Rachel Reeves said to the Daily Mail over the weekend, I think, Houston, we have a problem.
Theo, what do you make of the comments from Angela Rayner, welcoming, as many other world leaders have, welcoming the fall of Assad? Bearing in mind the power vacuum there and what we saw in the likes of Libya after mainly the French bombed them in, what was it, 2011, and Gaddafi was toppled.
Yeah.
Libya turned into an effective failed state. It was the #1 slave hotspot of the world. I remember seeing absolutely horrific videos of people being sold at slave markets. I don't think it's too much better these days.
Well, it's now the centre where all the migrants of Africa funnel through Libya.
And into Italy, across the Mediterranean.
Was it wise for Labour to come out so quickly to welcome the fall of Assad?
Assad was a man who used chemical weapons against his own people.
Best of the devil you know, maybe?
No, I think... Look, you can't allow, and I think this is where, and I take your point, Ben, but I think this is where, Angela Rayner and the government and the West it is right to welcome Assad. He was a monster, and it needs to be said. He was a monster. He's gone. The question is what comes next. And yes, it is a difficult question to answer, but this is a man. They are currently trying to find the former soldiers of the Assad regime right now to get the codes to doors where they can see women and children in underground cells in prisons under Damascus, to get the codes so they can go and free them. And by all accounts, these women and children among these prisoners are choking because the air is so acrid down there. It is absolutely horrific what this man did. It's good that he's gone. I can only hope he has a cold stay in Moscow over this winter, and it just remains a long one as well. But yes, I think there are some real questions now about what comes next. And Keir Starmer, you know, to Robert's point, defence has been on the back seat in this new government. He's put it on the back seat. They made no secret of the fact, you know, and this goes back to the election when it comes to the promise about, you know, well, they won't say when they're going to increase defence spending to 2.5% of GDP. And that's a problem they're going to have to get to grips with.
Sorry to cut you short. We have to go because we're the Shadow Cabinet Minister standing by, Theo Usherwood and, of course, Robert Fox. As always, thank you both very much.
Thank you both. Now, at GB News, we'd love to hear what you think. Every day we'll be running our poll of the day. And today we're asking, as Assad falls in Syria, is the UK still a player on the world stage? We'll be bringing you the live results throughout the day, so make sure to stay tuned. And the final results will be announced later in Martin Daubney's show. Yeah, and if you'd like to cast your vote, you just need to go to gbnews.com/poll. Now, as promised, we're joined by the Shadow Minister for Crime, Policing and Fire. That is Matt Bickers. A very good morning and warm welcome to you. Thanks for joining us. I think we first of all need to start, don't we, with the toppling of Bashar al-Assad. Obviously, huge questions now, although it's welcome to see the back of him, about what on earth follows in his place.
Yeah, huge news for the world. Lots of people very much welcoming what was, you know, a very barbaric regime finally over. But the big worry is what comes next. We've seen in similar situations before that the vacuum this creates can be fraught with danger. It doesn't necessarily result in stability and security for the Syrian people. And it's all about what comes next. We've seen the UN Security Council meeting with an emergency meeting today to look at that, to see what we can do to support the Syrian people in what comes next.
Matt, moving on to Labour, their plans to introduce up to 13,000 new police officers on the streets. Sir Keir Starmer says there'll be a bobby on the beat for every community. Good news, no?
Well, we would always welcome having more police on the streets. The last government obviously brought forward 20,000 additional police officers. We promised 20,000 additional police officers and delivered 20,000 additional police officers, meaning there are more police on the streets than ever before. But the thing with this pledge from Keir Starmer, like all the pledges we've heard from him in recent times, it doesn't quite stack up. So he's telling us there'll be 13,000 more police. Actually, it's just not the case. All the numbers tell us it's not the case. There'll be a few more police officers, but actually these numbers are made up of special constables, voluntary police officers. They're made up of PCSOs, and we're seeing all the feedback from chief constables and police and crime commissioners to say the money isn't there to do it. The government isn't backing them with that money, which could mean that we'll see police officers redeployed. So wonderful to have neighbourhood police officers named in each ward, but actually if that means taking away response police officers, the people who deal with all those 999 calls, you know, when you call the police and you call 999 because you're in a really tough situation, you want to know the police are there to respond. The last government committed an uplift last year of 922 million. The government is backpedalling on this. They will not commit the money we need to put those police on the streets. And actually, it undermines trust in politics, undermines our police force to keep telling us we're getting more police officers when it's not going to be the case.
Sorry to interject. You mentioned that you brought 20,000 police officers onto the streets, but you were essentially just replacing the ones that your previous Conservative government cut. So you didn't really introduce any new officers on the streets, did you? You just replaced them.
We could go back to what happened in 2008 and 2010, but actually the end result is not that we just replaced them. There are about 3,500 more police on the streets. We got through that tough time with our economy. We put police on the streets. And actually, it isn't just about putting police on the streets. It's about giving them the resources that they need to do the job. That's why we put that extra 922 million in last year. We've constantly increased that funding to our police and crime commissioners so that they can put the police on the street with the equipment they need, as well as toughening up the sentences for those people that they'll catch committing crime.
Yeah, but to be clear, when you're accusing Labour of undermining trust in politicians, and Ben's absolutely right, yes, you did cut 20,000 police, yes, you did replace them, but the argument from the police has always been that you didn't replace like with like, and that you got rid of very experienced detectives that had many, many years knowing exactly what they were doing, replaced with rookies, quite frankly. And also just a point, as Labour aren't coming on this morning, but they are investing £500 million in policing next year with a core grant of 260 million. So, you know, they're not exactly shying away from investing in the police, are they?
I would never call those hard, brave police officers that we're putting on the front line rookies. We've got some great new cops on the streets. Yes, they're younger, they're less experienced, but for all the things that we could look back to in 2008 and 2010 that made those choices necessary, we've got 20,000 more police on the streets. We've got more police on the streets than ever before. That's really positive news. And actually, you're talking about 500,000, 922 million last year alone from the Conservative government. The police, we need to put that resource into policing. The government are wriggling on this, wriggling left, right and centre. They're hearing criticism, even from Labour police and crime commissioners, about what's going on here. You can't expect the police to deliver more, well, you can't expect police leadership to deliver more police if you don't give them the cash to do so.
OK, Matt, one thing that you seemingly have pipped the Labour government to is meeting the new incoming US administration. Your leader, Kemi Badenoch, wined and dined with J.D. Vance, I think, over the weekend, or at least on Friday, the incoming US Vice President. What's that about? Are you trying to secure relations in anticipation of getting back into power?
I think, do you know what? I think we should always be working very closely with the USA. That's what, you know, the special relationship is all about. While the Labour Party might have spent the last few years offending Trump and his team, we'll be doing everything we can to work as closely as possible with them.
OK. Matt Vickers, Shadow Policing Minister, thanks very much indeed for your time this morning.
Thanks, Matt. Let's have a look at some of the other stories coming into the newsroom this morning. American rapper Jay-Z has been accused of raping a 13-year-old girl after the 2000 MTV Video Music Awards, allegedly alongside Sean Diddy Combs. An amended civil lawsuit, originally filed in October, names Jay-Z as a defendant in the case. And Jay-Z has denied the allegations on social media, blasting the lawsuit, calling it part of a blackmail attempt. Combs, who is currently in jail on federal sex trafficking charges, to which he's pleaded not guilty, has denied all allegations made against him.
More than 160,000 homes are without power in the aftermath of Storm Dara after the weekend, and millions were warned to stay indoors as strong winds and gusts were felt right across the country. 2 men were killed by falling trees onto their vehicles on Saturday.
And Swedish band ABBA's virtual concert in London has boosted the economy by £1.4 billion since it opened in May 2022. Producers behind the concert are set to sell their 3 millionth ticket as they look ahead to another 2 years of the residency.
Quite enough of these storms now. It's only December. Apparently there's more coming in time for Christmas. So you can have Christmas chaos as everybody's setting off trying to go home for the holidays. It was quite ropey, wasn't it, over the weekend?
It's, I'm meant to be moving house in a few weeks, well, around about a month's time, and everything is just breaking in my house,
really?
Which I'm having to replace, of course, before we move. At the weekend, the wind was so bad yesterday, the roof to my little shed / garden cabin at the bottom of the garden completely blew off. All the rain getting in, so another job to do.
Yeah, I was in a tent on Saturday night at a party, and we were right next to a river, and I thought we're either going to be lifted up and chucked into the river, or some trees going to come through this tarpaulin at any time. It was not that enjoyable as Christmas parties go.
But you're safe, you made it.
We're safe, we made it, thank goodness. Let's find out from Catherine Chalk what the forecast is up to today, because goodness me, we want to see the back of this wind.
A chilly start will give way to a lovely, warm afternoon. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Good morning. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. After an unsettled weekend, it will still be windy in the south, dry in the north as higher pressure starts building. So it's a cold start across Northern Ireland and Scotland with a touch of frost, but plenty of winter sunshine. Cloudier across much of England and Wales. There will be some breaks in the cloud further west, but we will see some showers, especially across eastern areas and running down the English Channel. And we'll still hold on to quite a brisk breeze here. Highs of up to 8 or 9 degrees in the south, but colder across Scotland. Highs here of 4 to 6 degrees. So as we go through Monday evening, plenty of clear skies as we head into the evening across Scotland, so temperatures will quickly fall away underneath the higher pressure as well, and light winds. We will see a touch of frost and fog developing as we go through this evening. Similar picture across Northern Ireland as well, temperatures quickly falling away to give a touch of frost, but further towards the south across much of England and Wales, holding on to a lot of cloud this evening with some showers just clipping the far southeast and down the English Channel. So as we go through the overnight period, Monday night into Tuesday, plenty of clear skies across Scotland and Northern Ireland, and under the light winds, temperatures will quickly fall. A widespread frost to start Tuesday morning, but holding on to a lot of cloud further towards the south. Lows here of around 5 or 6 degrees. So through Tuesday morning then, a cold start across Scotland and Northern Ireland, but plenty of sunshine. Cloud just coming into the far north of Scotland, but a blanket of cloud across much of England and Wales, perhaps thick enough for some outbreaks of rain and drizzle. But on the whole, many places are staying largely dry with lighter winds compared to the weekend, but it will be feeling cold, especially in Scotland. Highs here struggling at around 3 degrees.
A nice bright morning will generate a lovely warm day, right through to the evening. Boxed Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Ah, right, there we go. It is time now for the Great British Giveaway. A chance to fly off somewhere hot and sunny and get away from this awful weather.
Where would you fly to with 50k?
Maldives?
I suppose you don't have
I've never been to
spend it all.
Maldives, and it's on my bucket list for sure.
Or world cruise, 50 grand,
I'm
world
not
cruise?
into cruising. I
Have you
don't
been on
like
one?
being in confined spaces. I
Ooh.
think I'd be claustrophobic.
I love
All
them.
these nautical disasters you keep hearing about, and all these freak weather incidents.
No, they're
are
safe.
not for me.
It's always fun as well if you know, the choppy seas and my wife gets seasickness.
Oh, well, then definitely that's a no.
I always find it quite fun.
How would you spend 50k? But more importantly, have you got your name down? If you're in it, then you could win it. Here are all the details.
Imagine getting the call to tell you that you've won £50,000 in tax-free cash, our biggest cash prize of the year.
All right, very good luck to you. Still to come, Parliament are going to debate this week whether to ban the sale of fireworks to the general public. So we'll be doing the same next. What do you think, ban or stay?
I don't think banning them to the general public solves the problem. If you've got a problem with fireworks, it doesn't matter whether the public have got hold of them or if they're official events. It's still quite traumatic to animals or anyone with PTSD.
Yeah.
So I think the question is, do you want to ban fireworks? And personally, no. I just think perhaps we need to look after those people who have issues and pets a bit better.
Yeah, oh, young kids.
I'm not big on banning
All
stuff.
young children. Anyway, we'll debate that next. Fascinating debate. Stick with us.
Hi there, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and I'm going to take a second to tell you all about my show, Dubes & Co. We start off with the issues of the day. We then bring in both sides of the argument. We get rid of the disrespect, and then you throw me into the mix. And trust me, I'll tell it exactly how it is. And then, of course, the magic ingredient, you at home. We mix it all together, and what have we got? In my opinion, the best debate show in town. Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Mark Dolan tonight is your weekend dose of news, debate and entertainment. This sounds like a wild conspiracy theory. Don't miss My Big Opinion. Mark meets at My Take at 10. Democracy is a funny old thing. And we don't do boring, not on my watch. I just won't have it. Let's go and get another glass of that bubbly. You've earned it. That's Mark Dolan tonight, Saturday and Sunday, 9 to 11, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, though.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Nightmare commute? Kick it up a gear with GB News Radio. You can listen online and on DAB+ and on the GB News app. We're also on TuneIn and the Radio Player app. From the school run to rush hour, get revved up with GB News Radio. We are the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome to State of the Nation, daily plunge into the stories shaping our country. I'm Jacob Rees-Mogg, and Monday to Thursday we bring you the insights, the facts, the truth about how our country is being governed. Because what happens in Downing Street matters down your street. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent? I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs. That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. Right, we're going to have some fireworks now, I suspect, with our differences of opinions on this. Parliament is going to be holding a debate on whether or not to ban the sale of fireworks to the general public. And this is after one of these famous petitions managed to secure more than 50,000 signatures. That means that government will debate the issue, and it's calling for them to introduce a law stating that fireworks can only be used for professional shows and events.
And it comes as concerns grow on the effects of fireworks on animals and, may I add, children as well. I was trying to put my young boy down over November, and he just kept waking up, bang, bang, bang in the streets, inane. Anyway, they can trigger, of course, people's PTSD, veterans and trauma and so on. So we're asking the question today, should we ban the sale of fireworks?
Well, let's get the thoughts on this from the founder of the Firework Campaign UK, Julie Dawn. She believes we should absolutely... She's saying we should be banning them. Yes, and Charlie Lawson says we shouldn't be banning the sale of fireworks. So I was just surprised by that because it was the Firework Campaign, but presumably it's the campaign in favour of getting rid of them. So let's start with you, shall we, Julie? You're with Ben on this, I presume, that you think it's just too much now and it needs to be regulated better.
Yeah, we think that fireworks should be licensed. The sale and the use of fireworks should be licensed, not just sold to anybody who wants to walk into a supermarket and pick some up.
Why, Julie, though? What's the concern? I've got my concerns, but from your point of view and your campaign's point of view, what are the key issues with fireworks as they are now?
The random use of them, really. The fact that you can use fireworks 365 days a year for 16 hours of every day. The government seem to think that that's a balance. We don't think that it's a very fair balance between people who like fireworks and people who don't.
OK, well, let's bring in Charlie. I think I'm inclined to agree with you on all of this, that I think, come on, are we going to start banning people having a good time?
Well, first of all, Julie, my deepest sympathies go to you at your loss. I know all about this lot. I'm a big racing man, and I know that certainly around here in Cheshire, we had some problems a couple of years ago. Indeed, I think there was 3 fatalities in the equine world. So I totally get that. The law or the Act of Parliament or whatever that there is there already should be used to its full extent. I'm reluctant to ban anything, because if you let this lot start banning stuff, we won't be able to open our gobs. But if you are irresponsible with fireworks, then you should be punished by the full force of the law. But I'm not for banning things. I kind of grew up with bangs myself, for obvious reasons, and I'm with Isabel on this one. I'm not for a ban. And it doesn't really matter where you are. If it's in the park in your village, or if it's in the the sports field in your town or whatever, I'm afraid if you let your dog out and you turn Classic FM up to volume 50 and start panicking, your dog will pick up, and as they do, my dogs are absolutely fine with bangs. But look, Julie, you would have my total sympathy, but I think we're banning everything these days, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Charlie, I was just explaining to Isabel off air, I used to think of myself as a bit of a libertarian. I'd say, you know, legalise everything, let people make their own decisions. But when I hear of pets being terrified, sometimes to death, in my own experience, my young boy not being able to sleep at night because neighbours next door, for no apparent reason, it wasn't even on November the 5th, setting fireworks off. Do you not sympathise with those kind of people? Can we not just isolate fireworks to licensed events where people around the area know that they're going to be happening?
Well, unfortunately, young people these days are frightened of a mouse. You know what I mean? We're raising a different sort of, different sort of young people than I'm used to. But I think we could amend, or I think we could look at the fact that if somebody is aware that you have equines in the next field or whatever, then you should be responsible enough to realise that you're going to cause problems. My whole point is, and I've said, Julia, I get it, and I sympathise with your story. I just think banning is the thin end of the wedge. Yeah. You know what I mean? That's all my fear is.
Julie, I just want to raise the point that even if you are successful with this petition and you do manage to ban the sale of fireworks to the general public, even these organised events do cause distress. So, you know, are you still OK with that? Because I went to a public firework display this year and it was right next to a field which had 3 horses in and it was all set to music. You know, aren't you really just saying no to fireworks altogether, or is it OK for those animals on certain days of the year?
No, I think that we're not talking about a complete ban of fireworks. We're talking about licensing anybody who wants to buy and use fireworks. If you have a license, then one of the conditions of the license could be that you need to advertise it properly to allow people in the local area to make proper provision to either move their animals or go and sit with their grandmother or whatever needs to be done. Because random fireworks coming at you out of the blue when you're sitting in your own home, sitting there quiet and safe in your own home, and then all of a sudden this intrusion of these loud bangs and the fireworks, you shouldn't feel uncomfortable in your own home. It's not fair for that.
Yeah.
And the full force of the law doesn't come and help you. There is no law to come and help you. The Animal Welfare Act doesn't work in relation to fireworks. There is nobody who will come and say to your next door neighbour, no, don't use those fireworks because the lady there has got dementia, or don't set off fireworks without telling somebody. There is no law. There's guidance and nobody takes any notice.
OK, Julie Dawn and Charlie Lawson, thank you for your contributions this morning. Yeah, I'm not completely exercised by it. I'm just, you know, it'd just be nice if there's a bit more consideration from neighbours and so on. Some views on your say. Good morning, Pat. You say, yes, ban fireworks for just big displays only. They're too loud these days. It's selfish of people, especially teenagers, to let off loud bangers. But, Tim, you say, I'm sick of all the ban everything brigade. If people don't want them, don't buy them. Governments love to ban and control everything. Slippery slope.
Yeah, lots of you getting in touch on your say. Thanks for doing that. But we're now going to dial it down, I think, a little bit and talk about Advent and the lead up to Christmas. Lots of you really enjoying these. And we're hearing from church ministers right across the country.
Yeah, and each day they have a special message for you to celebrate the festive season. Here's today's.
The GB News Advent Calendar, Day 9.
Hello, my name is Marjorie and I'm a minister in the north of England. Most of Britain is familiar with the fact that we have a king, a monarch. In 2022, at the age of 73, King Charles ascended to the throne. Jesus Christ is the only person to have actually been born a king, and at Christmas we celebrate his arrival. In Matthew's Gospel, chapter 21, Jesus himself, towards the end of his life, declares his kingship. Behold, your king has come, riding on a donkey, gentle. Yes, his power is completely different to our understanding of power in the world. He did not ascend to power, he simply is power. And what an example of power he gave to us. And that is why, 2,000 years later, many people across our world on a daily basis continue to turn to the person of Jesus Christ. He will not overpower you, but he will empower you to know God. And so we invite you individually to know the presence and the power of Jesus at this Christmas time. And may Great Britain, the United Kingdom, recognise, behold, your King is coming.
Lovely.
Okay.
Great stuff. I know you guys at home are really enjoying those, and my mum too, actually. She really enjoys them.
If you'd like to, you can see all the special Advent messages as Christmas approaches on our website, gbnews.com/Advent.
Coming up, Coity is here to take you through all of the day's sports news, including the Premier League action. That's next.
The latest GB News travel.
Good morning, I'm Russell Holding. In County Down, the A2 is closed in both directions north of Donegal because of fallen power cables. Stena Line sailings are suspended between Holyhead and Dublin because of a technical problem. There's disruption to a number of train services this morning, mostly because of poor weather conditions, with no service between Holyhead and Chester or between Llandudno and Blaenau-Festiniog. Buses replaced trains between Stafford and Stoke-on-Trent because of emergency engineering works, and trains have been stopped between Stafford and Rugby. But overnight engineering works have overrun. There's also no service on a number of routes to and from Shrewsbury and Swansea. In Ceredigion, the A44 is closed east of Pontywydd because of a fallen tree. And in Kent, the A2 is blocked eastbound by an accident between junction 2 of the M25 and the Bean interchange, causing queues.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website, gbnews.com.
Good afternoon, Britain. Weekdays from midday.
Now, is this a good idea? Because you are leaving yourself open to all sorts of criticism as a family if you let cameras into your house.
I have to admit I had big reservations, and Jacob gave all his children the choice whether to appear or not, and I discussed it with my own because we were in Somerset over the summer and the camera crews were around. And in fact, me and my husband decided that our children would not be in it at all.
Right.
The two younger ones didn't really know what the question was, and the 13-year-old was happier to not be in the spotlight. And they never have been. And I think that's where Jacob took less of a risk, because his children have been photographed left, right and centre from the day they were born, in newspapers, in cartoons, taking the mickey out of their names and whatever.
Are they going to become the new Kardashians? Does your brother even know who Kim Kardashian is?
Oh, I'm not entirely sure I do. So, yeah, she's very famous for being quite curvaceous, I believe. Yeah. But I don't think they're anywhere near that category. I've seen a couple of articles where they do a compare and contrast, and they don't really match up. But I think this is quite from the bits I've seen, quite a light-hearted look at a very different type of lifestyle to most people, but at the people behind it who are, you know, normal human beings.
And Jacob's wife there we saw talking. What is she like? What are we expecting to hear from her?
Helena's brilliant. I had the great pleasure of introducing them as adults.
Your fault.
It's all my fault that there are now 6 extra Rees-Moggs around. But she is a fantastic, fun, but very, very steely, as you say, woman who knows her own mind.
I think she's going to be the star of the show.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Welcome back. It is 7:41. It is time to go through all the sport with Paul Coity, and I'm sorry, but we have to start with Spurs.
OK.
Bit of a shocker.
Well, yeah, I mean, they were 2-0 up, but Chelsea are such a good side. And I think, to be honest with you, that you never know what you're going to get with Tottenham Hotspur. You know, one week they win and play really well, and the next week then they're terrible, and then they're good again. So you never know what you're going to get. And the way it started, they were 2-0 up after 11 minutes. And Chelsea fans were very quiet. Spurs fans are thinking, actually, something's going on here. Give away a couple of... Stop laughing. Give away a couple of silly penalties. And we've got Cole Palmer, who, you know, you're an Arsenal fan, I'm a Spurs fan, but we both admire him, don't we? He really is some player. And he scored a Panenka with the second penalty. And the Panenka, for those that don't know, which was originated back in the 70s by Panenka, who's a Czech footballer.
Sounds like Christmas bread.
It's a dink. That's exactly what it is. Send the goalkeeper neighbour and just a little dink. And to have the nerve to do that, I mean, he's a young player and so confident and bordering on cocky the way he was doing it, but he set a new record for penalties, 100% penalty record, 12 out of 12. Brilliant player. Chelsea are going places, I've got to tell you. And although Chelsea won't say this, and Enzo Maresca won't say it, and said, oh, we know it's too early for us, they are challenging for the title.
Yeah.
Don't you worry about that.
And maybe bar Liverpool, it seems like nobody really wants to win the league this year.
Everybody.
Arsenal dropping points.
Arsenal dropped points against Fulham. Exactly. Liverpool looking good, but it's strength in depth. Chelsea have that to go through the season. Liverpool, I'm not so sure whether they'll drop off later on, but we'll have to see. But I think they're looking very good and really good bet. Ipswich lost at home to Bournemouth with another last-minute goal. Leicester 2, Brighton 2. So Ruud van Nistelrooy, who's taken over there. He's doing very well. Unbeaten so far, but that's your new manager bounce.
I'll never forgive Ruud.
Oh, really?
After the penalties. Remember when Martin Keown and Lauren jumped all over him when he missed that penalty at Old Trafford? In what year was it? 2000? And it sparked Arsenal's mega unbeaten run. But I think he was always a dirty player, Ruud.
You think so? You think it was a bit rude?
Yeah, well, he got Patrick Vieira sent off during that infamous Pizzagate game. I'll never forgive him.
You know what? There was... Alan Mallory, great Alan Mallory, said to me about this and said, you know, you've got to have lovers and fighters in football. You've got to have some nasty people in there. You know, you've got to have a bit of both.
Got a bit of pantomime.
You've got to have a bit of both. Look, let me quickly tell you about Manchester United and Dan Ashworth. This is a really interesting one. Dan Ashworth, sporting director, he was brought in from Brighton and originally Brighton and then went to Newcastle. Manchester United and Team Ineos and Jim Radcliffe, they were desperate to have him as their sporting director, paid a 7-figure sum to Newcastle, put him on gardening leave. So this is how good this guy is. 5 months in, he's out the door. 5 months. So Ineos have just said, you know, he's not for us. They've made a quote. They said, Dan Ashworth will be leaving his role as sporting director. We would like to thank, I love these, we would like to thank Dan, really, for his work and support during a transitional period for the club, which kind of means that, yeah, you're only there for a little time. You know, we've got other things to do and we wish him well for the future. So after 5 months, he was the guy that was going to oversee everything. And it just shows, do they really know what they're doing at the moment?
Is the grass always greener?
Exactly.
Should have stayed at Newcastle.
Exactly. So there we are. So Dan Ashworth, after 5 months, the guy at Manchester United.
Gone. Thanks, Troycy.
Thank you. More next time on a cycling crash. That can be our little...
Oh, yeah, that really is naughty.
We've got
I'll talk about that later.
Yeah, next time. Thank you so much.
Look forward to that.
Right, stay with us. We've got Dawn and Chris. Take us through what's making the news. Don't move a muscle.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or GBNews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
Lee Anderson's Real World, Fridays from 7 p.m.
Last orders at the bar, and I'm joined by Geordie Shore star Ricky Guanaccio. Have I said that right? Is that Italian?
Yeah, it is, yeah.
Italian, your parents Italian? Is it?
Pronunciation was pretty much perfect.
Yeah, well, there you go. So, look, mate, Geordie Shore, I've never watched it, mate, so I do apologise about that. But I know these reality TV shows are making big stars out of the people, making you famous, making you loads of money. Is it worth it?
For me personally, yeah. It's been a hell of a career. Been a hell of a lot of fun doing it, ups and downs, but first and foremost, money-wise, yeah.
That's good. So people stopping in the street, you're being famous, wanting the autograph and all. How'd you cope with that, Ricky?
Well, when we first started doing the show, I mean, we got our show off the back of Jersey Shore in America. We never expected the fame that we got, and, you know, being one of the biggest reality TV shows in the UK and now the world, you know, it's in 150-odd countries worldwide. Wow. It's pretty crazy. It's when you're living in houses. I mean, for example, Geordie Shore and Love Island's probably the same as well. When you're living in villas and you're living in houses, the arguing side sort of plays on your mind. You've got to deal with all that. You know, it's a hard place to be. It's a pressure cooker.
You're living in one of these villas, Ricky, or one of these houses. Do you ever wake up one morning and think, what am I doing here?
When I first started, yes. Yeah. Now, I love it.
Yeah?
Yeah, I don't mind all the, there's no emotion connecting me now with film, and it's kind of like, I go in there, it's fun, or it's, it's dramatic, whatever it may be.
Have you ever worked behind a bar?
No.
No?
Yeah, for not a long period of time. My mum and dad had a...
Well, I can
definitely mess this one up.
Yeah, I can actually believe that you've never worked behind a bar.
Yeah, so my parents sacked us when I worked in the restaurant.
Well, obviously, I mean, you wouldn't get a job here with a pint like that, would you?
Do you want it?
No, mate, no.
GB News, the People's Channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel. And as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Welcome back. It's 7:48. You're with Ben and Isabel on GB News Breakfast. Also joined by Chris Akabusi and Dawn Neeson to go through all of the day's top stories. Dawn, Telegraph, page 2. Angela Rayner set to give mayors more powers to accelerate major infrastructure projects. Before you get stuck into this, did you see her, may I say it, car crash interview at the weekend with Trevor
Which
Phillips?
one? She did a couple.
She did several, actually.
She said, there's a housing crisis. We need to build 1.5 million new homes. And she was asked by the journalist, or at least the presenter, Trevor Phillips, but what about the 2.5 million migrants that you want to welcome into the country as well? And she says, there's loads of houses, literally within the same sentence.
It was, I mean, God bless him, she made Mikel Antonio's car crash look like a minor bump with that interview. It's ridiculous. And when she was talking about Syria as well, I like Angela Rayner, but when she was talking about Syria, it was like she was completely clueless.
Out of her depth.
Talking about.
Well, can you trust her with this news story today to accelerate major infrastructure projects?
The thing is with this story, Ben, I don't understand it. I've read it several times. Rayner hands mayors power over building. She's going to give mayors, local town and city mayors, more powers to accelerate major infrastructure projects. So if you've got a mayor where you live, they will then be working to draw up spatial development strategies, her words, not mine, to work with the local councils. If you don't have a mayor in your area, it doesn't matter, the councils will still be doing it. And this is obviously, as you said, Ben, to build the 1.5 million new homes that will mostly go to migrants. And we don't have any builders to build the migrants.
Yes, we have to get more.
We need
people
by the end of this decade,
yes.
we need nearly 1 million more builders who will be the migrants coming to build the houses that they will then live in. And we need to build 400,000 new houses a week as well. A year, every year for the next 5 years. So 1.5 million isn't going to cut it. So I don't understand this story. What the mayors are meant to be doing in conjunction with the local councils, but it's basically getting rid of the red tape around planning for new house building. And then, of course, the houses don't build themselves. You've got to get the building companies to actually agree to build the houses, and can they make money out of doing it? None of this makes sense.
Is this
actually
a gamble by Labour that they think they've got the majority of the mayors and therefore they can push through what they want, whereas actually a lot of communities, we can call it NIMBYism, but actually if developers who have no connection to a lot of these beautiful parts of our countryside were able to run roughshod over the last 20, 30 years, we'd be basically living in Belgium, where you just have developments along every single road. And there's a famous saying in Belgium, you don't find a single view without houses in it. Do we want that? Is that what we're saying?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think that is the challenge that the government have got, that the previous government have had too, is NIMBYism, not in my backyard. And, people know that there needs to be more housing, but they don't want the green belt between Milton Keynes, for example, and a village where I live, Great Brick Hill, to be just covered with houses. And you can see the creep every other year happening. So I suspect that this is trying to head off that path so that things are discussed early, so that then the councils cannot then veto the building plans that have already been agreed.
Well, yeah, people won't have the right to protest. And the other issue here is 84% of councils have a shortage in planning departments in any case. So.
I am a self-confessed NIMBY, but only because a lot of the new build estates they make these days are just so devoid of any character or love and care. They look like toy town estates.
Yeah, well, they also have no infrastructure to back them up. So they plonk a huge housing development. There's no doctor's surgery. There's new primary school. There's no extra parking at the local station.
Links.
It's a total nightmare. And I say this as someone who's on our lane had a huge development put on. It's a rat run along the lane. All of the local services are under pressure. It's really difficult. Obviously, we need more houses, but they're not.
I think if they looked nicer and there was a bit more love and care put into them, I think more NIMBYs would be,
Building companies are there to make a profit. So
and trash the rivers whilst they're at it.
Actually, what you need to do is just redevelop the towns. All those shops that are
empty buildings, stick flats in there.
100%.
Yeah, let's do that. Let's look at the Telegraph now, Chris. The state will be like a start-up under Labour. I suppose lean and mean is the kind of what you think of when you think of a start-up running on, minimal funds. Punching above their weight. Is that what they want to do?
Well, they want to do this sort of test and learn strategy. That is to say, now, this is OK when you're a small, agile, nimble company and you're full of confidence and it really doesn't matter. You try this thing and you chuck it up against the wall, half of it sticks and the rest falls down. And so you go with what stuck as to what falls down. This is really, really great. But then you have to be very comfortable with a sense of failure and reward failure. And I'm not quite sure the big old state is going to be able to work with that.
Dawn, you're about 20 seconds, sorry.
It's absolute rubbish, isn't it? It's not going to work with the government we've got at the moment. I don't want them running a bath let in the country at the moment. Sorry.
Short and sweet. There we go.
Well, we have to leave it there. We've run out of time this hour. Dawn and Chris will have more from you just after 8:30. But for now, let's get a check on your forecast today with Catherine Chalk. And the good news is the crazy wind is over for now.
Heavy showers first thing will be followed by a warm, cosy day. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Good morning. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. After an unsettled weekend, it will still be windy in the south, drier in the north as higher pressure starts building. So it's a cold start across Northern Ireland and Scotland with a touch of frost, but plenty of winter sunshine. Cloudier across much of England and Wales. There will be some breaks in the cloud further west, but we will see some showers, especially across eastern areas and running down the English Channel. And we'll still hold on to quite a brisk breeze here. Highs of up to 8 or 9 degrees in the south, but colder across Scotland. Highs here of 4 to 6 degrees. So as we go through Monday evening, plenty of clear skies as we head into the evening across Scotland, so temperatures will quickly fall away underneath the higher pressure as well, and light winds. We will see a touch of frost and fog developing as we go through this evening. Similar picture across Northern Ireland as well, temperatures quickly falling away to give a touch of frost, but further towards the south across much of England and Wales, holding on to a lot of cloud this evening with some showers just clipping the far southeast and down the English Channel. So as we go through the overnight period, Monday night into Tuesday, plenty of clear skies across Scotland and Northern Ireland, and under the light winds, temperatures will quickly fall. A widespread frost to start Tuesday morning, but holding on to a lot of cloud further towards the south. Lows here of around 5 or 6 degrees. So through Tuesday morning then, a cold start across Scotland and Northern Ireland, but plenty of sunshine. Cloud just coming into the far north of Scotland, but a blanket of cloud across much of England and Wales, perhaps thick enough for some outbreaks of rain and drizzle. But on the whole, many places are staying largely dry with lighter winds compared to the weekend, but it will be feeling cold, especially in Scotland. Highs here struggling at around 3 degrees.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
The latest GB News travel.
Good morning, I'm Russell Holding. In County Down, the A2 is closed in both directions north of Donegal because of fallen power cables. Irish ferry sailings are suspended between Holyhead and Dublin because of poor weather, and Stena Line sailings between Holyhead and Dublin are suspended because of a technical problem. The M6 in Cheshire is partly blocked southbound by an accident between junctions 21A and 21 from the M62 to Warrington. There are queues from junction 22 at Newton Willows. Train services are suspended between Stafford and Rugby after overnight engineering works overran. In Ceredigion, the A44 is closed east of Pontywydd because of a fallen tree. The M11 in Essex is blocked southbound by an accident between junctions 7A and 7 near Harlow, causing queues. And the M4 from Wales into England is partly blocked eastbound by an accident on the Prince of Wales Bridge, causing queues.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website, gbnews.com.
Imagine getting a call to tell you that you've won £50,000.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, you didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
If you want your news to be straight talking...
This is a nightmare for the Conservatives again.
Down to earth.
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
And most importantly, honest.
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them.
Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good morning. Turmoil in the Middle East as Bashar al-Assad is toppled in Syria.
The former dictator has now fled to Russia, seeking asylum in Moscow on humanitarian grounds.
Attention now turns to what comes next as Western leaders warn of uncertainty in the region.
That comes as the Prime Minister is in Abu Dhabi today to drive up investment in the UK and seek closer ties with the Gulf state.
In other news, a victim from the Rotherham sex abuse scandal reveals how she's been let down by police again after they lost vital evidence in her case.
Prince William follows in his mother's footsteps as he serves lunch for the homeless at a shelter she took him to as a boy.
The American rapper Jay-Z has been accused of raping a 13-year-old girl after the MTV Video Music Awards 2 decades ago. He's denied the allegations and said that his heart is broken for his wife Beyoncé and their family.
And in the sport this morning, Chelsea are looking very much like title contenders, whether they admit it or not, as Arsenal stutter at Fulham. Another Formula One season comes to an end with champion Max Verstappen being sent to Rwanda for his potty mouth.
After an unsettled weekend, we do have higher pressure building to help settle things down. I'll have all the details coming up shortly.
It's just gone 8 o'clock. I'm Ben Leo.
I'm Isabel Webster, and you're tuned in to GB News Breakfast. it's the calm after the storm, isn't it? I mean, Friday night was bad enough, and then Saturday night it really whipped up.
You almost got blown away in a tent.
I almost got, yeah, it was all rather Wizard of Oz. I know there's lots of reports this morning about the ruby shoes from the Wizard of Oz reaching a fortune, but I felt like I was going to be lifted in a sort of tornado. I survived to tell the tale, but you're
not overdoing this slightly, that you were going to be lifted up into the air and sent back to Kansas.
Honestly, that's how I felt, though. If you're in the middle of a storm, it's not funny. It's really not.
Are you sure
funny.
you hadn't had a few too many drinks and you were just?
I was just having a white wine spritzer, actually.
Was it sensible to be? I mean, did anybody say, "Is this a good idea"?
I did. I took my daughter home after a while because I just thought there's trees everywhere. We're next to it was next to a mill pub, and this was a fast-flowing river, and it was every now and then the sides of the marquee sort of flapped like I thought, oh my gosh, we're off. But also trees were coming down all over the county. In fact, the next village over from me, they still haven't got power. They lost power on Saturday at 5 o'clock.
It's funny because I was poo-pooing the red weather alert on Friday, saying, is this nanny state? Do we really need this? But then, of course, yesterday, down where I live near Brighton, got very bad. The roof of my log cabin got ripped off.
Looking at the pictures, that's no joke.
I'll see if we can show you a bit later on screen. We're just getting the image in the system. But, yeah, it's all came off. And Spurs got blown away, Coisey.
No, it's nothing to do with the weather.
It's funny, I was saying actually at Spurs yesterday beforehand, and I just used the phrase, I said, you know what, it was all quiet there at the ground, and I said, it's the calm before the storm. Actually, not. There's a storm outside, so therefore it's the storm before the storm, and there was a storm everywhere, but anyway.
Well, yeah, if you've got any pictures of the storm, send them in, gbnews.com/your say, or I think the old email to attach is gbviews@gbnews.com.
Yeah,
that still works. We'll see if we can get them on air. I'll show mine in a bit as well, once we've got it.
Right, let's turn our attention, shall we, to the Middle East. It's been an eventful 48 hours, to say the least. Bashar al-Assad has been toppled in Syria by Islamist rebels.
Assad has fled the country, heading to Moscow, where he's been granted asylum on, get this, humanitarian grounds. That's according to Russian state media.
Well, this comes as Syrians are emptying the streets as rebel forces impose a curfew in Damascus after taking control of the capital.
American President Joe Biden has called it a moment of historic opportunity for the long-suffering people of Syria to build a better future.
Well, in the UK, Sir Keir Starmer has welcomed the fall of Bashar's barbaric regime.
I welcome the fact that Assad has gone. The Syrian people had to put up with his brutal regime for far, far too long. We're talking to regional allies. It's very important now that there's a political settlement, a political way forward. And it's very, very important that we emphasise that civilians and minorities must be protected in this process. But very, very pleased that Assad has fallen.
Joining us now is political commentator Theo Usherwood. Good morning, Theo.
Good morning.
So much going on here and such a complex situation in the country. In terms of the UK's response to it, I mentioned at the top of the 6 o'clock hour, Donald Trump has said, this has nothing to do with America, we don't need to get involved, let them get on with it. But over the weekend, Angela Rayner, Sir Keir Starmer welcoming the fall of al-Assad.
Yes, and I think the question now is what next, and how does the British government treat HTS, which of course is the organisation which has liberated Syria from Assad. Interesting, there's a line in the Mail actually I was just reading just now, which is that the Home Office might be looking at changing its relationship with HTS. Previously, of course, it is a proscribed terrorist organisation. But Keir Starmer, as you heard there, is looking, along with Joe Biden, for some sort of political relationship with HTS. Does it just form a liberation movement that has taken Syria from Assad, or is it actually going to form the basis of a government in Syria? And that's the absolute, critical question that I think diplomats will be trying to figure out right now as to work out how they're going to engage with it.
And Robert Fox, who's the defence editor for The Standard, was saying earlier this morning that this is hugely significant to us here in the UK for lots of reasons, not just because we could potentially see an influx of refugees if, for example, we see some sort of extremist organisation taking over from Assad, but also because of the nasty weapons that are in the country, chemical weapons having been used, and we know that for a fact in the past, but also potentially the rise of terrorism again.
Yes.
We should be worried about this.
We should, and obviously we've been talking about, the prisons that Assad ran, imprisoning, tens of thousands of dissidents within the country, and not just fighting men who rose up against his regime, but also women and children as well. But within that, there are going to be members potentially of, terrorists who will be freed from these prisons. And Jonathan Hall, who is the independent reviewer on terrorism, has warned in the Times today that this could form the basis, the kernel of a new Islamic State. We know that when there is this mass exodus from prisons, that actually these people are going to be freed. They're going to be out on the streets of Damascus. We know of the dangers previously of people travelling, and Robert mentioned, of course, Shamima Begum, but others travelling from this country to places like Syria, to get the resource, the training, the input from the likes of Islamic State, and that is a real danger that they could then bring it back to this country.
OK, Theo, thank you. Let's get the thoughts now of defence analyst and former British Army officer Stuart Crawford. Stuart, good morning to you. Thanks for joining us. Correct me if I'm wrong, but it feels like Syria is potentially up for grabs. Israel are in the country, Turkey are making inroads in the north. We've got Jalani, the chap who's heading the rebel forces who toppled Assad, and the US bombing ISIS sites overnight. So what does the future of the country look like?
Absolutely right, and that's a very good summary of what seems to be going on there at the moment. I think that if I knew what the future of the country was going to be like, I'd be the only person in the world who would have that information. And the answer is nobody knows. I think we just have to stick with what we do know. Assad has gone. His regime has crumbled. There are now competing and contrasting groups within Syria who are all vying for power in some form or other. HTS obviously is the one that's grabbed the headlines, but in the north and the northeast of the country, we have the Turks backing the SNA, the Syrian National Army. We have the US backing the Syrian Defense Forces, and those two are fighting against each other. So we have NATO-sponsored militias or armies, if you want to call them that, fighting against each other. And in the south, we have, as your correspondent has just said, Israel establishing a sort of buffer zone, if you like, around the Golan Heights, and lots of other groups. And then ISIS, which hasn't gone away, hence the Americans sending in their B-52 and F-15 bombers and others yesterday to strike 75 different sites. That is significant. And then there's the mixed messages coming out of the White House. Trump saying, the incoming president saying it's nothing to do with us and let's stay well clear. And Biden saying that the USA will commit ground troops if the circumstances dictate that they should. So I'm afraid I can't tell you what's going to happen because nobody knows.
Nobody knows, but I suppose it underlines just how febrile the world's security is at the moment. And I suppose it raises the spectre of potentially British involvement in some way and the pressure to increase defence spending here in this country, which the government are really dragging their heels on.
No, absolutely. And I think that we also should not forget that there is a British regional interest there in Cyprus, where we have two military bases at Akrotiri and at Dhekelia, and a very important listening station, let me put it that way, on that island. And so Britain's interests are very close to what's going on at the moment. And if there is an upsurge in terrorism, which everybody hopes that there won't be, then Britain and British bases are very close to the centre of gravity of that upsurge.
Yeah, and there's also the risk, of course, and the concern that this will spark another wave of migrants making their way across Europe, refugees as well, Stuart.
Yes, I think that's true. But also I think that looking at what Turkey's trying to do, Turkey has taken in a large number of Syrian refugees, and now I think is hopeful that they will return to Syria. And indeed, there are reports of Syrian refugees now trying to make their way from Lebanon back into Syria, and the whole region is an absolute mess. And I just can't foretell how it's going to all pan out.
No, of course.
But it's not good news for world peace.
It's not good news for world peace, and one wonders what's left with Assad fleeing to Moscow. Has he lined his pockets on his way and left anything, or is it, is there anything left for Syrians trying to return to their home country? All questions that presumably we will learn more about in the coming weeks. Good to get your thoughts this morning, Lieutenant Colonel Stuart Stuart Crawford. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Right, at GB News, we love to hear what you think. Every day we'll be running our poll of the day, and today we're asking, as Assad falls in Syria, is the UK still a player on the world stage?
As always, we'll bring you the live results throughout the day. You'll get the final results in Martin Daubney's show, and we'll have a little taster of what you guys on breakfast think just after 9 o'clock. If you haven't cast your vote already, just go to gbnews.com/poll.
Right, coming up, a survivor from the Rotherham abuse scandal has claimed that she has been let down by South Yorkshire police during an investigation into allegations of coercion, fraud and violent threats.
Tina, which is not her real name, was exploited by gangs as a child, but has exclusively told GB News that she was re-groomed as an adult and that the police failed to support her. Well, let's speak now to our national reporter, Charlie Peters, who's uncovered this story for us. Good morning to you, Charlie. Goodness me, the horrors of this having to be relived not once but twice.
It's bad enough for this to happen to someone as a child, 11 years old in Tina's case. For it to occur again as an adult is just horrendous. That's her language. That's what she told me last month when we finally had this interview. After, frankly, years of preparing this story, I've been aware of her case for a long time. And this story is about persistence from Tina and those supporting her amid police incompetence, in her view, but also just outright refusal to believe her. Taking it back nearly 30 years ago, she was exploited by gangs as an 11-year-old, made pregnant at 12 by these gangs. South Yorkshire police at that time gave two men a caution when they admitted sexual contact with a 12-year-old. The failures of the policing at that time are well known, but when it was exposed, the scandal in Rotherham in 2014, Tina finally achieved some justice. At least 5 of her perpetrators were jailed, and in compensation money, South Yorkshire police handed over £50,000 as a sort of way of accepting, yes, we let you down very severely indeed when you were just 11. However, what we're revealing today is that a coercive businessman, who we're not naming, conned Tina out of £32,000 of that compensation money she had. She wanted to get a mortgage to buy her home, and he said, oh, invest it in my business and I'll pay you back and I'll give you lawyers and I'll get you a mortgage and all the rest of it. She gave him that money. It was never returned. She spent years of demanding it. During that period of coercive abuse, she was then sexually abused by this man and also had threats of violence made against her. He is a firearms holder, and she claims that he put a gun to her head. Now, all of this was eventually reported to South Yorkshire police after years, and she says they just didn't believe her. They dropped the investigation. She even had some secret recordings she'd made, and when they made a subject access review to see what South Yorkshire police had, they found that some of that key evidence was missing. I've reviewed it. I find it extremely compelling. The threats that they've recorded, to me, seem like threats. I've seen case notes where South Yorkshire police say, no, she's clearly lied and undermined the investigation. That's not a threat. It really is quite extraordinary to review what she's captured and what the police say. So they went for a victim's right to review, and that came back to the same conclusion. We won't investigate any further. We're dropping this. So what do we have now? A woman 20 years on from being abused by gangs, going through the same experience, re-groomed, re-exploited, out of cash, fearing for her family's safety, and again, she says, being ignored by South Yorkshire police. I have a full interview tonight at 7, but I think we have a clip we can play for you now.
Angry. Upset, angry. But for some reason, I felt like I had a bit of fight in me for it. Because I thought, I can't sit back and let this happen again. I can't let them just chuck me down and do this on my own again.
It was bad enough when you were 12.
It were horrendous.
But again, you were going through the same process.
Yeah.
You're being ignored and neglected by the police while you were being exploited.
And I just know that they're not investigating things correctly. They're not.
Well, as I said, that full interview will be out tonight, and we'll also have some of those secret recordings we can play for you showing just how appalling this was. Well, in response, the Detective Superintendent for South Yorkshire Police, James Axe, head of Professional Standards, said it's clear that Tina has suffered a horrendous ordeal which will undoubtedly have a profound impact on her for the rest of her life. An internal Professional Standards process is underway in relation to aspects of the handling of this case. In addition, a criminal investigation into the fraud allegations remains live. The investigation is being reviewed holistically to ensure all of the wider matters raised are taken into consideration and assessed against a criminal threshold. While these investigations remain ongoing, we are unable to comment any further. We continue to offer Tina support and safeguarding advice and provide updates on the matters she has raised when possible as this work continues.
OK, Charlie Peters, national reporter, thank you very much. Yeah, just beggars belief, you know, let down and betrayed as a child, let down again as an adult. You just wonder on her perspective on life and humanity. You know, poor woman. Thank you, Charlie. Look forward to that tonight.
OK, let's take a look at some of the other stories coming into the newsroom this morning. And the American rapper Jay-Z has been accused of raping a 13-year-old girl after the 2000 MTV Video Music Awards, allegedly alongside Sean Diddy Combs. An amended civil lawsuit, originally filed in October, has now named Jay-Z as a defendant in the case. Jay-Z denies the allegations on social media, blasting the lawsuit, calling it part of a blackmail attempt. Combs, who is currently in jail on federal sex trafficking charges to which he has pleaded not guilty, has also denied all allegations against him.
More than 160,000 homes are without power in the aftermath of Storm Dara over the weekend. Millions were warned to stay indoors as strong winds and gusts were felt all across the country. 2 men were killed by falling trees on their vehicles on Saturday.
And national living treasure Dame Judi Dench is celebrating her 90th birthday today. Goodness me, I had no idea she was 90. The acclaimed actress of stage and screen is widely considered one of our greatest actresses. She was born on this day in 1934 and, of course, made her professional debut in 1957. Really is a national treasure, and I was reading, she gave an interview last week where she said that her temper is quite famous amongst her inner circle. She says she doesn't lose it very often, but when she does, everybody knows about it. And famously, her deceased husband had cups of tea, hot cups of tea thrown in his face, but it only served to make me love her even more. Because
doesn't she look amazing?
Yeah, she looks amazing, but she is one of our greatest actresses, isn't she?
I loved her. Maybe a bit unoriginal and cliche, but I loved her as M in the Bond series.
Well, I think it was the opposite of unoriginal and cliche.
Oh, really?
Yeah, to see a woman in the role.
No, but I mean the movie. It's an easy pick, isn't it? It's obviously a very stormy weekend. Red weather alerts all over the shop, and I promised you a picture of my garden cabin, which came a cropper at the weekend. It was yesterday, actually. Every time I looked out the window, there was more of it coming off. Have we got the roof?
That's stressful.
Here we go. There.
Oh no!
So all
the plywood fully exposed. You're going to have to sort that out.
Yes, we've got a guy coming around this afternoon, but the rain getting through, potentially dripping down. So yeah, not good. But you know, at least we're okay because.
But it is true that people up and down the country spent the whole weekend in a state of anxiety about whether trees are going to come down or tiles are going to be lifted, or in my case, 2 weeks ago, the trampoline went walkies.
Oh,
that was quite stressful.
That's a classic.
Could have taken out the neighbours.
Trampoline on the railway line. But we didn't have it that bad down here, did we? Compared to, say, the west of England.
Yeah, well, that was worse for sure. But anyway, is it over? Apparently, there's more in time for Christmas, but I think there's a bit of calm now. Let's hear from the expert, Catherine Chalk.
Despite the morning rain, it'll be a nice, warm, cosy day ahead. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Good morning. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. After an unsettled weekend, it will still be windy in the south, dry in the north as higher pressure starts building. So it's a cold start across Northern Ireland and Scotland with a touch of frost, but plenty of winter sunshine. Cloudier across much of England and Wales. There will be some breaks in the cloud further west, but we will see some showers, especially across eastern areas and running down the English Channel. And we'll still hold on to quite a brisk breeze here. Highs of up to 8 or 9 degrees in the south, but colder across Scotland. Highs here of 4 to 6 degrees. So as we go through Monday evening, plenty of clear skies as we head into the evening across Scotland, so temperatures will quickly fall away underneath the higher pressure as well, and light winds. We will see a touch of frost and fog developing as we go through this evening. Similar picture across Northern Ireland as well, temperatures quickly falling away to give a touch of frost, but further towards the south across much of England and Wales, holding on to a lot of cloud this evening with some showers just clipping the far southeast and down the English Channel. So as we go through the overnight period, Monday night into Tuesday, plenty of clear skies across Scotland and Northern Ireland, and under the light winds, temperatures will quickly fall, a widespread frost to start Tuesday morning, but holding on to a lot of cloud further towards the south, lows here of around 5 or 6 degrees. So through Tuesday morning then, a cold start across Scotland and Northern Ireland, but plenty of sunshine. Cloud just coming into the far north of Scotland, but a blanket of cloud across much of England and Wales, perhaps thick enough for some outbreaks of rain and drizzle. But on the whole, many places are staying largely dry with lighter winds compared to the weekend, but it will be feeling cold, especially in Scotland. Highs here struggling at around 3 degrees.
There will be a light breeze in the morning, leading to a warm front. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
All right, time now for the Great British Giveaway and your chance to become our biggest ever winner with an incredible £50,000 in tax-free cash. Here's all the details you need to win.
Imagine getting the call to tell you that you've won £50,000 in tax-free cash, our biggest cash prize of the year.
Stay with us, still to come. The King's surprising bath time revelations all will be revealed after this quick break.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Now, our next guests have been working closely with celebrities and MPs to help clean up our planet.
Very important. Think Ocean was founded in 2021 with 2 main goals. One, educating the next generation to make sure that they know when they're growing up that naturally we have to take care of the planet, and cleaning pollution that's already in the environment.
Well, joining us now to tell us more is Think Ocean's founder, Hugo Valdez-Vera, and the co-founder, Nolene Mariappan. Really good to see you both this morning. So, Nolene, let's start with you. What is Think Ocean, and why did you want to start this back in 2021?
Yes, so Hugo had actually been working on the environment and climate action for quite a long time. When he moved to the UK, he realised that there was a growing problem with plastic pollution and that more needed to be done because people weren't actually seeing the link between plastic, the impact on the environment and climate change. So he founded the organisation and I joined him with 3 goals, really. Education, looking at technology to scale solutions, and looking at how we develop more circular economy programs. So actually looking at reusing, recycling, actually creating local economies from what people would consider waste.
Hugo, just how bad is plastic pollution around the world, and especially here in the UK?
Well, it is bad, but we don't know the extent of how bad it is. You know, this is not much interest from the bigger players or, some government for us to know every detail of the pollution. So if we know that is from 1 to 10 is 2, probably it's about 6.
Oh.
GB News, the People's Channel.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently. It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it? It's explosive. I mean, this is very good. It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial. And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born. It's everything you need to kickstart your evening. Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it. That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi there, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and I'm going to take a second to tell you all about my show, Dubes & Co. We start off with the issues of the day. We then bring in both sides of the argument. We get rid of the disrespect. And then you throw me into the mix. And trust me, I'll tell it exactly how it is. And then, of course, the magic ingredient, you at home. We mix it all together, and what have we got? In my opinion, the best debate show in town. Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. King Charles has joked he felt slightly anxious about his crown wobbling off during his coronation last spring.
Yes, his comments were made during an upcoming documentary called Coronation Girls, which follows the story of 50 young Canadian women who were sponsored to sail all across the Atlantic to attend the late Queen's coronation in the summer of 1953.
Well, let's get the thoughts from Ingrid Seward this morning, who is an expert in all matters royal about this, editor-in-chief, of course, at Majesty magazine. Good morning to you. It turns out that the King's pre-match nerves was something that his mother also experienced. I'm absolutely loving this anecdote about bath time. Tell us exactly what he revealed.
Well, what King Charles revealed was that his mother had a similar sort of dilemma when, before she was going to be crowned, because the St Edward's crown is so heavy, it's got a solid gold sort of base, and it weighs 5 pounds, that she was told she had to practice wearing it. And so she used to wear it in the evenings. And when she came to visit the children in their bath time, that was Anne and Charles, she would wear the crown. And Charles has a very distinct early memory, and he remembers this really clearly. And then the other thing he said, which was very sweet, was that he also remembered what he was wearing at the coronation, because he was taken there by his nanny and looked after by the Queen Mother. But one thing that really bothered him, over the years he's mentioned it a lot, is that the barber at Buckingham Palace put some sort of oil on his hair. And if you look at the pictures of Charles at the coronation, you can see that he's doing that with his hair. And then talking to his grandmother, because it was the smell of the sort of pomade or whatever they put on his hair that was really absorbing him.
Ingrid, what
can imagine?
Sorry to sound a bit ignorant. What was the point of the oil to make sure
smooth it down?
Oh, right.
Well, in the 50s, little boys' hair was sort of really flattened, and it had to look very, very smart. So it was like a sort of Brill cream, I imagine.
Oh, okay.
And he just had his hair cut, and then they put this pomade on it. And that's really occupied him for the most of the time he was at the coronation service.
Meanwhile, at his coronation, I don't know about you, I was quite preoccupied by whether or not the crown was going to wobble, and also on Queen Camilla's head. A couple of times they did look a bit jaunty. I almost wanted someone to sort of straighten them up, because I was worried there were going to be memes and things. It's no easy business, is it, being a monarch?
No, and I believe that Charles and Camilla had practiced, walking around with sort of bags of flour or something of that weight on their heads to get used to this huge weight of the crowns and the wobble of it. I think that the Archbishop of Canterbury, when he actually placed the crown on Charles's head, he did adjust it slightly. He had to adjust it, and because it's got to be absolutely right, or else it is going to wobble. And Charles obviously worried about it throughout parts of the ceremony.
Yeah, I just love that colour about Charles and Anne having a bath and his mother coming in wearing the crown to practice. It's just, great, a great piece of colour.
Doesn't that happen to you in your bath times?
Oh, all the time. Yeah, all the time. Let's talk about Prince William. He's been, over the weekend, he's been at the Notre Dame opening. He was, I guess, one of the first major Brits before our Prime Minister even to meet the incoming US President Donald Trump. The Mail today, there's a spread suggesting, could William be our secret trick to build ties with Donald Trump and his administration. And also, he's been echoing his late mother, Princess Diana. He's been serving food at a homeless shelter, the same one, actually, Ingrid, that she took him to as a boy.
Well, certainly, I think that William's meeting with Donald Trump was very interesting. They sat in a sort of presidential way in what looked like a sort of special suite. I thought they'd just be shaking hands and not to dance, but there it was a proper meeting. And I think that certainly, I think the whole royal family are very vital in our special relation, or the special relationship that the government hope that we will have with Trump's administration, because he loves the royal family, absolutely loves them.
Well, you say he loves the royal family, not all of them. I mean, he's been gunning for William's brother, hasn't he? And he famously said over the weekend, or infamously said, and I might be slightly misquoting it, but this one's the good one, about William. Do you think the matter of Harry might have come up in their private conversations?
No, I wouldn't have thought so for a moment. This is diplomacy, absolutely not. But I think it might have given William a bit of a kick to know that he was annoying his brother by sitting with his arch enemy Trump.
OK, well, it's a stark contrast as well. William's life path, you know, he's meeting heads of state, as you've just alluded to, Ingrid. He's getting down, he's knuckling on with work, he's being the prince that the UK wants and loves him to be, whereas Harry, you know, doing his own thing in America, I guess more inclined to stay in the celeb circuit.
Well, I mean, Harry's made his life in America, and he said recently, you know, how happy he is there, and he was saying everything, you know, is absolutely great in his marriage. They're just doing different things at different times, which is, you know, what the royal family normally do. They can't all be stuck together the whole time. And as we saw William visiting the homeless shelter again that his mother originally took him to. But homeless is a really big project for William, and he's vowed that he's going to try and do what he can to get rid of the homeless problem within 5 years, which I very much doubt if he'll be able to do, but he's giving it his very best effort.
Yeah. Just finally, Princess of Wales had a busy week last week, the most we've seen of her since what's been an awful year for her. When do we expect to see her again? Will that be it for now until probably Christmas Day? And are they going to Sandringham, or what's the plan, do you know?
Well, they live at Anne Hall, you know, in the holiday times, which is on the Sandringham estate, part of the Sandringham estate. So they will definitely be there, and they will certainly be there on Christmas Day. I suspect that might be the moment we see them, unless we see her driving to the family lunch at Buckingham Palace, which they have every year. So we might see her through a car window, but I think the next time we see her properly will be Christmas Day.
OK.
Ingrid Seward, Editor-in-Chief of Majesty Magazine, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, there was a funny meme of Donald Trump shaking hands with Prince William, and somebody captioned Trump saying, "We're sending Harry back," and William replies, "Please don't."
What do you think of the beard?
Say that again, sorry.
Prince William's beard.
Oh, yeah, I clocked it earlier. I think it suits him.
Oh, it's annoying me, I have to say.
I think because
fan.
he obviously is lacking a bit on top, I think it gives it a nice balance.
I'm not sure. Jury's out on that one. Let us know what you think on that. In the meantime, we're going to have a quick break before Paul Quick brings us up to speed on all the latest sports news.
The latest GB News travel.
Good morning, I'm Russell Holding. In County Down, the A2 is closed north of Donegal because of fallen power cables, and the A2 blocked eastbound by an accident off junction 1 of the M3 in Belfast, causing queues. Irish ferry sailings are suspended between Holyhead and Dublin because of poor weather. Stena Line sailing suspended there because of a technical problem. There's widespread disruption to a number of train services, with no service on a number of routes because of the weather. On the M6 in Cheshire, there's a lane closed southbound after an accident between junctions 21A and 21 from the M62 to Warrington. There are queues from junction 23 at Haydock. In Ceredigion, the A44 is closed east of Pontywydd because of a fallen tree. The M11 in Essex is blocked southbound where a van caught fire between junctions 7A and 7 near Harlow, causing delays in both directions. And on the M40 in Buckinghamshire, there's a lane closed southbound after an accident just before junction 1 for the Denham roundabout, causing delays, and that's the latest.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website, gbnews.com.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel. And as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
Nightmare commute? Kick it up a gear with GB News Radio. You can listen online and on DAB+ and on the GB News app. We're also on TuneIn and the Radio Player apps. From the school run to rush hour, get revved up with GB News Radio. We are the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, Will, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome to State of the Nation, daily plunge into the stories shaping our country. I'm Jacob Rees-Mogg, and Monday to Thursday we bring you the insights, the facts, the truth about how our country is being governed. Because what happens in Downing Street matters down your street. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
8:36, Ben and Isabel with you on GB News Breakfast, and Paul Coyte's here as well to go through all the latest sports news. Good weekend, Paul. What was the Spurs score?
Sports Personality of the Year award.
Right, let's talk about that.
The shortlist has been announced.
Yeah.
Shall I go through those for you?
Go on, then.
Jude Bellingham is in there. What do we think? Jude won La Liga.
Is he a personality?
Champions. Oh, yeah.
I know he's a great player. But
See, this is always the argument with Sports Personality of the Year. It's like, do you call it personality or is it sports person of the year?
Yeah, person.
I think it's just called
How's the song
personality
because...
Isn't it done it sing Hey Jude?
Hey Jude.
Oh, hey Jude. Isn't there one about Bellingham?
Oh, what? Hey Jude.
Oh, never mind.
That was the remix. But anyway, Jude Bellingham is in there.
Who else?
I'll tell you who else. Keely Hodgkinson.
Oh, she was great at the
800-metre runner.
Yeah, she's a superstar.
Gold medalist from the Olympics.
Yeah, can't run as fast as her.
Very good. So who's in the lead out of those two already?
Keely.
You're going Keely.
Hang on, so Jude won the Champions League?
Champions League.
And a great Euros.
Yeah, and in the Euros, the overhead kick. I mean, it wasn't a great Euros for him, but what a wonderful player and probably our finest.
I think Keely's ahead at this point.
OK, I agree with that. How about also Luke Littler?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. He had
Luke Littler's
an
in there.
absolute star of a year.
Who probably, I believe, will win the world title this year. I mean, he won like a couple of £1,000 last year. This year, he's a millionaire. He's just brilliant. So he's in there as well.
He's only 17, isn't he?
Yeah, no, 18. 18. Good to see a darts player, though, isn't it? Good to see a darts player in Sports Personality of the Year.
Who was Luke's big rival who he lost the...
Luke Humphries.
He was not moaning, but he was having a bit of a dig at the BBC saying, you know, I should be on there. I've won all these titles.
You know what? You're right. Luke Humphries is in the form of his life. But then again, we're talking about the personality. This is the sort of person that the public... We've all been talking about him, and he's done great for darts because everybody's interested. Joe Root, cricketer Joe Root, that scored more runs than any other English cricketer in Test cricket. Sarah Storey, Paralympian, cyclist, and Alex Yee, who kind of will fly under the radar, although he's a world champion and gold medalist in the Olympics, triathlon. So I don't think because of name and everything. So who do you think's going to win?
Who's your money on?
Oh, gosh, Keely.
You think Keely? I think probably Keely as well. I think probably Keely.
It'd be great for Luke to be up there as well.
Love to see Littler win it.
Because he's so young as well. He's achieved so much at a young age.
Young sports personality.
There you go.
So why is he not in that?
Well, often, you know, they get both. So, so maybe that'll be the thing for him.
Keely would be great.
I think Keely would certainly deserve it, and just a fantastic athlete. So absolutely right. Where should we go? Should we talk a little bit about the Grand Prix yesterday? And we've come to the end of the season. So McLaren, they've won the Constructors' Championship, first time in 26 years. So that's really good, though, isn't it? I mean, it makes it nice. Yeah, it's good, and it was so close with Ferrari, so it was going to see who was going to actually win it. So they've managed to come through, so well done to them. And now we've got Max Verstappen, who's now got to go off and serve his time for swearing.
In Rwanda.
Which is actually a true story. Yeah.
He's off to Rwanda for that press conference and the potty mouth, and he effed and blinded a little bit too much, and so he's been sent to Rwanda to help young Rwandan racing drivers.
Who knew? Who knew?
How about that?
But I want to talk about this horror crash, and I'm not talking about the one just down the road from you over the weekend.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Katie Marchand.
Yeah, Katie Marchand. This happened at the velodrome, well, the Olympic Park velodrome. Well, that's the Lee Valley, but they changed the name. But anyway, so this was on Saturday night. Have a look at this. Now, this is in the Keirin. Now, she's around the outside. Now, her against the Alessia Capriona.
Over the glass railings.
Yeah, and look at this, straight over the glass. Now, there's the barrier around the outside. Just watch this slowly. Here we go.
Oh, no.
And now, so they were both treated. But there were 4 spectators were also treated.
Blimey.
Because can you imagine sitting there and then a bike the speed of that comes up over the top and lands on you?
So whose fault was it?
You know what? That is a tricky thing to be able to tell.
The rider on the inside, I think, they verged to the right.
It looks like, there we are. Let's just watch it. And there we are. And they just move up to the side. So anyway, they banked into the crowd. They've had a new barrier put up there, which cost £250,000. But
it still didn't work.
That's what you wonder, is surely the height can't be here. It's got to be way above the head because there'd already been an accident that had happened before. So they've gone right over the top. Now, she's got a broken arm. She's in hospital. She's OK. But very nasty accident.
Very nasty accident. And what about the spectators? What were their injuries?
Well, they're OK as well. They were also sent to hospital to have a look. But I think everybody seems to be OK.
Ooh, sounds like a claim there.
Where there's a blame, there's a claim.
Oh, yeah, they're probably sitting there watching that going, actually, he's got a point. Not Katie's fault, though, not Katie's fault. But, yeah, very nasty accident.
Thanks, Corey. Just quickly going back to the F1, I hope Williams have a McLaren-style resurgence. They're a great British racing team, Williams, and I hope...
Be good, wouldn't it?
You know, it's about time they got back up there.
Yeah.
Thanks,
McLaren
Paul.
can do it after what happened, why not?
Exactly. Right, stay with us. Still to come, Chris Akabusi and Dawn Neese are going to take us through the papers one last time in What's Making the News. We'll see you in just a moment.
I'm Emily Carver. This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
We're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Sunday with Michael Portillo from 11, only on GB News.
Phil Kearsey is bringing a new flavour to the Michelin-starred restaurant Pied à Terre as he becomes its new executive head chef. Customers can expect a menu that showcases modern British cooking accompanied by classical French roots, which uses hyper-seasonal ingredients. What are hyper-seasonal ingredients? That's an interesting phrase.
It's more about just reacting to the seasonality of everything. We like to change the menu all the time. So basically, I surround myself with the best suppliers, and they tell me what's amazing at the moment, and then we try and celebrate that in the restaurant in many different forms, using taste, texture, and technique, and just try and celebrate something as humble as a broccoli stem or a cauliflower, using absolutely everything, and making sure we've got an ever-changing menu. So letting the seasons dictate, so it's never boring and we never get menu fatigue.
OK, your career has taken you around the world a bit.
Yeah.
For example, you were in the United States. What did you learn there?
So, every chef I've worked for, it's about to take something from. A lot of chefs will go places and just stay in one establishment and get to the top, and then that's it. I've kind of then went to another chef to learn completely different things. Well, that's the brilliant thing, to be able to surround myself with such amazing chefs throughout my career, because I've learned different things from all of them. And you find out 5 different ways to do something, and you find the way that you like it the best. And it's also about understanding it takes a while to understand how the restaurant is, going through the history of all these amazing chefs that have been before me, the style, because it needs to make sense. You wouldn't have a dish that should be at the Fat Duck and then a dish that should be at the Waterside, you know. You need to make sure that it all makes sense and it goes together with the decor, the service, the wine serving. And so we want to be the restaurant, not that does a little bit of everything, we want to be the best French restaurant in London, you know.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Every Saturday, 10 till 12, we'll bring you all of the news that you need to know. We'll also remind you that there is so much to smile about.
It's my favourite time of the week. I get to relax, enjoy some light-hearted stories, and let Ellie teach me about fashion too.
That's Saturday Morning Live, every Saturday, 10 till 12.
Only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
I'm Tom Harwood. This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
So let's take a look at what is making the news one last time. Today we're joined by the Olympian Chris Akabusi and the former editor of the Daily Star, Dawn Neeson. Welcome back to both of you. Chris, I want to start with you. The headline says smell step, which has instantly intrigued me. What is this all about? I know it's in the Daily Star.
Well, what brought me to this was today I'm going to have my Christmas dinner with the speakers.
All right, the first one of the season.
Yeah, so we're getting their Christmas dinner. Lovely. So, it's lovely. Astronauts also have Christmas dinners, but they have been warned off of eating Brussels sprouts. Why, you may ask? Well, apparently Brussels sprouts really induce flatulence. I don't know how politely else to say that. And what the suggestion is that if they have, in that confined space, Brussels sprouts, it's not just the smells that might be a little bit odious, but also the inflammability of the environment.
Oh, right, the methane or whatever it is.
So it's
Are they banned then, the Brussels sprouts?
Yeah. Now, when I was a soldier, we used to have composite rations, which are all dried up and boiled down, so you can just have tablets if you want to.
Chris, I used to buy those ration packs from online just to eat every day. They're so nice.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And they have like a 20-year lifespan.
Yeah, absolutely.
And when we used to do airsofting in the woods, we'd find old ration packs from 10 years ago. It's like beans and lamb stew.
Exactly.
We'd put them over the mess tin. It's amazing.
Absolutely.
Lovely.
Check you out, absolutely. Get the old mess tins out. I used to love the biscuits, hard biscuits, cheese and jam. Delicious.
And the biscuit brown. Was it the biscuit browns which stop you going to the loo?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
I love how you're going down this whole road, whereas my brain is still thinking about how it's dangerous to break wind in the international space. Is that actually a risk? Who knew?
It's the hydrogen sulfide gas, Sarah.
Oh, it's not methane. Okay.
No, it's hydrogen sulfide gas that when you eat sprouts, that's what your body produces, and the bottom burps are flammable.
Oh, don't call it that. Oh, my goodness. But you know, they are so good for you, Brussels sprouts.
Bottom burps are good for you.
No, but all the fibre and all the goodness in there, they're missing out. They've got to get their balanced diet, because the toll on your body from being an astronaut is absolutely... I mean, you age exponentially, you never recover.
Oh, God.
So you need all the nutrients you can get.
Can they not do what Arla Foods have done to the cows, which is give them the additives to sort of...
Here we go. Speaking of the science of Christmas, Dawn.
Yes, love this. Kids, I mean, come on. Look, the news is grim, so let's have some festive fun. And this is a spread in the Daily Star today. Same paper, I know, but it's put on Earth to have fun. And this is it's from CBeebies presenter, actually, and she's exploding a few of the myths. Mistletoe, for example, OK? Everyone thinks it's romantic. Well, sales are 75% down this year because we're all a bit worried about kissing someone under the mistletoe and then sort of like, you know, phoning HR.
Me too.
Yeah, absolutely. #me too. But mistletoe isn't actually that romantic. Even the word mistletoe is less pretty than it sounds. The white berries get eaten, and the birds that eat them then poo out the seed. Sorry, it's a bottom theme here, isn't it? Poo out the seed. And when people noticed this was happening back in the day, they called it mistletoe, which actually comes from the ancient Anglo-Saxon words, which means dung and stick. So mistletoe actually means poo on a stick.
Oh. That is so interesting. Do you know, I also heard another mistletoe news story today on the radio as I was driving in, that the Romans discovered that mistletoe berries were very, very sticky. And now surgeons are looking at using it for facial scars as a sort of substitute glue, because it's not man-made and therefore it's more sustainable. So who knew? Mistletoe sales might be down, but you may have some mistletoe in your face before you know it.
Chris, have you ever snogged anyone under the mistletoe? Actually, same question to all of you. I don't know anybody who's had a kiss
I've had a snog under the mistletoe, but with my husband.
With
yeah.
I was looking with a little bit of revelation there. No.
I get in trouble with the husband every year because we dodge him a block of flats, and I always stick a sprig of mistletoe over the door to the flat. So anyone that's delivering any parcels,
you get a cheap thrill. You're outrageous.
Standing there in a West Ham dressing gown and my slippers, going, "That's just no, that's all right, love." No.
And by the way, since we are talking about our other halves, it's worth saying is your wedding anniversary today. First anniversary. So happy anniversary to you.
Thank you. Love you, Rhiann. Happy wedding anniversary. We're going out for dinner tonight.
Which is paper, isn't it? So
it is paper.
Yeah, we were discussing it earlier.
Happy anniversary.
I thought it might have been cotton or something. I think cotton is 3. You're on 10.
I just did 10. That was tin. I want to get to the good stuff, but that doesn't kick in till about 25.
Yeah, that's silver. I'm coming up to ruby.
Oh, that's nice.
Well,
those ruby slippers.
Hang on, how many years is Ruby?
40.
Wow.
I got married very, very, very young. Child bride, obviously.
Wow. OK, let's turn our attention, Chris, to sweet treats can be healthy, but lay off the sugary drinks. This is in the Times today.
This seems to be a complete reversal. For a very long time, we're told don't eat sweets, don't eat pastries, especially if you're pre-diabetic, blah, 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 blah. But apparently, scientists in Sweden have found that there's no correlation between increased consumption of treats and the risk of cardiovascular disease. So, of course, for me personally, being a little bit of a sceptic, I ask who is funding this research, what is the aim, where they want to go with this. But nonetheless, they're saying everything in moderation is OK, comes to mind with this little survey. But yeah, you know, they're saying, OK, there's lots of sugar in those pops, you know, not alcohol box, where's that come from? You know, soda drinks. But actually, you can have the odd bun, the odd bit of chocolate.
Ooh, see, I like a pan au chocolat in the morning.
A little bit of what you fancy does you good.
Well
Absolutely,
done.
It's just
everything in moderation.
Yeah.
Even with the kids as well, I don't mind. You get lots of parents who are very strict on sweets and chocolate.
I'm quite strict
very
on
liberal.
sweets, but the trouble is you can't fight it. I mean, there's Halloween and then every
the more
party.
You restrict something, don't they want to do it in any case? The more you say no, the more they want to do it.
Bad for their
also,
teeth.
no, just OK, maybe, but I let them find their way. There's a big old sweetie drawer. The old man throws stuff in there, and it's just free for all. Eventually, first of all, they're like troughs, but sooner or later, the novelty wears off and they dip in when they need it.
But those habits that they learn as kids carried on through life, aren't they? So just trying to teach healthy habits.
I ate mountains of sweets and Coke and everything else when I was a kid, and I turned out all right.
There we go.
Up for debate. Up for debate.
GBNews.com/.
That's the poll of the day.
Poll of the day.
Where do you want to go, Ben? You choose.
What about Dawn, the West Ham player, Mikel Antonio, had a bad car crash. He wrapped his Ferrari round a car?
Yeah,
round a tree.
Sorry, round a tree.
Both Chris and I are huge West Ham fans, and I think we both want to send our best to Mickey and his family. He's a great player, one of our best players for a long time. He was driving on Saturday, we all know the story by now, is a £260,000 Ferrari FF, which costs around £20,000 a year to insure, by the way, and hit a tree and was airlifted to hospital. He had surgery, he's recovering from surgery, he's fine, he's conscious, he's talking, but obviously now the big debate is will he ever be able to go back to his football career. As I said, he's been a great servant to the club, a wonderful player, used to live near me, got 4 of the cutest little kids, and I just wanted to talk about it because I want to wish him well.
Yeah, of course.
Chris, are football players insured for incidents like this? Is it personal insurance, or do West Ham have insurance that cover him?
Well, the club will definitely have insurance for a major asset. I mean, these are phenomenal assets. And when I was an athlete, for example, I had personal insurance as well on my legs because it's the way I was earning my money at the time. So I'm sure he'll be covered on that side. But for me, I think of someone like Antonio, and don't want to get too far down that road. But he's 34. but he's a sort of player who you could see playing football for another 5-6 years, slowly down the Football League. And so at some stage, he'll begin to think about his football career, obviously. But like Dawn's, I echo everything Dawn has said. He's our most prolific striker in the Premier League era, and can only wish him well.
Yeah, I mean, look, to be able to play for his club again looks questionable, but to be honest, he is lucky to have walked out. Well, not walked out there, to have escaped out there with his life.
If you look at
it really looks like he shouldn't have survived that.
Yeah, no,
it's a miracle.
And also,
it is a miracle.
If there is a silver lining, it's a very slim one, but he's 34. He's not a 19-year-old just starting his career, so he's had a decent career. He's earned some money.
Well, we wish him all the best. Yeah, absolutely. And we wish you both all the best. Thank you so much, Chris and Dawn. We've loved having you this morning. Here's Catherine Chalk with your forecast.
A chilly start will give way to a lovely, warm afternoon. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Good morning. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. After an unsettled weekend, it will still be windy in the south, dry in the north as higher pressure starts building. So it's a cold start across Northern Ireland and Scotland with a touch of frost, but plenty of winter sunshine. Cloudier across much of England and Wales. There will be some breaks in the cloud further west, but we will see some showers, especially across eastern areas and running down the English Channel. And we'll still hold on to quite a brisk breeze here. Highs of up to 8 or 9 degrees in the south, but colder across Scotland. Highs here of 4 to 6 degrees. So as we go through Monday evening, plenty of clear skies as we head into the evening across Scotland, so temperatures will quickly fall away underneath the higher pressure as well, and light winds. We will see a touch of frost and fog developing as we go through this evening. Similar picture across Northern Ireland as well, temperatures quickly falling away to give a touch of frost, but further towards the south across much of England and Wales, holding on to a lot of cloud this evening with some showers just clipping the far southeast and down the English Channel. So as we go through the overnight period, Monday night into Tuesday, plenty of clear skies across Scotland and Northern Ireland, and under the light winds, temperatures will quickly fall. A widespread frost to start Tuesday morning, but holding on to a lot of cloud further towards the south. Lows here of around 5 or 6 degrees. So through Tuesday morning then, a cold start across Scotland and Northern Ireland, but plenty of sunshine. Cloud just coming into the far north of Scotland, but a blanket of cloud across much of England and Wales, perhaps thick enough for some outbreaks of rain and drizzle. But on the whole, many places are staying largely dry with lighter winds compared to the weekend, but it will be feeling cold, especially in Scotland. Highs here struggling at around 3 degrees.
A nice bright morning will generate a lovely warm day, right through to the evening. Boxed Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
The latest GB News travel.
Good morning, I'm Russell Holding. In County Down, the A2 is closed in both directions north of Donegal because of fallen power cables, and the A2's blocked eastbound by an accident off junction 1 of the M3, causing queues heading out of Belfast. Irish ferry sailings are suspended between Holyhead and Dublin because of poor weather conditions. Stena Line sailing suspended there because of a technical problem. There's disruption to a number of train services this morning with no service on a number of lines after problems with the weather. On the M6 in Cheshire, there's a lane closed southbound after an accident between junctions 21A and 21 from the M62 to Warrington, with queues from junction 23 at Haydock. In Ceredigion, the A44 is closed east of Pontywydd because of a fallen tree, and the M11 in Essex is closed southbound after a van caught fire between junction 7A and 7 near Harlow, with long delays in both directions. That's the latest.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website gbnews.com.
It's our festive treat to you. Your chance to win an incredible £50,000 in tax-free cash. Our biggest ever Great British giveaway. Good luck.
Hi there, I'm Michelle Dewberry and I'm going to take a second to tell you all about my show, Dubes & Co. We start off with the issues of the day. We then bring in both sides of the argument. We get rid of the disrespect. And then you throw me into the mix. And trust me, I'll tell it exactly how it is. And then, of course, the magic ingredient, you at home. We mix it all together and what have we got, in my opinion, the best debate show in town. Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent? I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs. That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good morning. Turmoil and power struggles in Syria in the wake of Bashar al-Assad being deposed.
The former dictator has now fled to Russia, seeking asylum in Moscow on, believe it or not, humanitarian grounds.
Attention now turns to what comes next as Western leaders warn of uncertainty in the region.
Well, that comes as the Prime Minister's in Abu Dhabi and Saudi Arabia today to drive up investment in the UK and to seek closer ties with the Gulf states.
A victim from the Rotherham sex abuse scandal reveals how she's been let down by the police, again, after they lost vital evidence in her latest case.
Prince William follows in his mother's footsteps as he serves lunch for the homeless at a shelter that she took him to as a boy.
The American rapper Jay-Z accused of raping a 13-year-old girl after the MTV Video Music Awards 2 decades ago. He's denied the allegations and said his heart is broken for his wife, Beyoncé, and their family.
After an unsettled weekend, we do have higher pressure building to help settle things down. I'll have all the details coming up shortly.
It's just gone 9 o'clock. I'm Isabel Webster.
And I'm Ben Leo, and this is GB News Breakfast.
Just looking at all the pictures, not only in the papers this morning, but all over social media. There's a fantastic tree at King's Cross Station. People arriving in on the Eurostar, being greeted by this. You go to Covent Garden, you've got the stunning Christmas tree there. You go to Canary Wharf, an amazing Christmas tree there. And yet, possibly one of the most iconic locations in the capital is...
Trafalgar Square. But there is a reason for this, and we have a picture. So there was a tweet doing the rounds at the weekend comparing the Christmas tree at the Rockefeller Center in New York, which looks beautiful,
famous
amazing
from
colours.
Home Alone, isn't it?
Yeah, just an amazing tree. We'll show you a picture in a sec. And then the one in Trafalgar Square, as Isabel said, you know, amazing trees all over London, Covent Garden, but the one in Trafalgar Square, I don't know, just something not quite right with it because it looks a bit paltry.
Well, it's been dubbed the corn on the cob, and you can see why with those lights. They look little chunks of sweet corn there. It's a bit skinny. It looks a bit lacklustre, doesn't it? Whereas the one on the left of the screen, and if you're looking at this at home, if you're listening to this on the radio, you can check this out on social media or indeed watch this back on our GB News app. But, I mean, we can do better than that, can't we?
Well, as proven by Covent Garden and elsewhere, there's great trees across London. But this tree in Trafalgar Square, there is some history to it. I think every year Norway gives it to us as a gift for something to do with World War II, maybe our part in World War II. So, yeah, a little bit paltry. Maybe if they had some different lights, some different colours.
I just think it just needs to be a bit thicker.
Bit of a needs a blow dry.
And glow up.
Some sea salt spray.
Let us know what you think this morning, and if you've seen any stunning trees where you live, send those in. We always love to have a look. gbnews.com/yoursay, or if you're sending pictures, it's gbviews@gbnews.uk.
.com.
There we go. It's been a while since I've used the email address.
Yeah. Right, a tumultuous 48 hours in the Middle East as Bashar al-Assad is toppled in Syria by Islamist rebels.
Yes, Assad has fled the country with his wife and 3 children, heading to Moscow, where he's been granted asylum on humanitarian grounds, according to Russian state media.
Attention now turns to Assad's notorious prisons as rescuers search for thousands of trapped inmates. As fears grow, they may have been used as death camps.
Well, the President of the United States, Joe Biden, has called this a moment of historic opportunity for the long-suffering people of Syria to build a better future.
And in the UK, Sir Keir Starmer has welcomed the fall of Bashar's barbaric regime.
I welcome the fact that Assad has gone.
the Syrian people had to put up with his brutal regime for far, far too long. We're talking to regional allies. It's very important now that there's a political settlement, a political way forward, and it's very, very important that we emphasise that civilians and minorities must be protected in this process. But very, very pleased that Assad has fallen.
Well, earlier we spoke to the defence editor at The Standard, Robert Fox, a regular on the programme, who gave us his take on the situation.
They're very worried about what the insurgencies, the volatility from Lebanon right the way through Syria and Iraq. And I can't see that going away, despite what Donald Trump is saying. Donald Trump doesn't like wars. He doesn't like long wars, least of all. And he did pull back. But he was burnt, I think, by the really very powerful ambitions of Turkey. And once I start talking about it, it gets so complicated. This is a mosaic, and I think we're not taking this seriously enough. Full of minorities, it's very difficult to see there's going to be a majority group that can take over Syria and run it as a unity. And it's part of Syria's history. But why it's important for us is exotic weapons, too many nasty weapons around. One, the possibility of terrorism, refugees, and this being another frozen war, which has suddenly become unfrozen, and they spread very quickly.
Robert Fox with that earlier on.
Yeah, every day we run our poll of the day, and today we've been asking, as Assad falls in Syria, is the UK still a player on the world stage?
Well, the results are in. 18% of you so far believe that the UK is still a global player. 82% of you, on the other hand, don't think we are. If you haven't yet cast your vote, don't forget you can go to gbnews.com/poll, and we'll have the final result of that in Martin Daubney's show this afternoon.
OK, we move on. A very important story now. A survivor from the Rotherham abuse scandal has claimed that she's been let down by South Yorkshire police, again, during an investigation into allegations of coercion, fraud and violent threats.
Well, Tina, which is not her real name, was exploited by gangs as a child, but has exclusively told GB News that she was regroomed as an adult and that the police failed to support her. Our national reporter Charlie Peters is here in the studio with all the details, and you've been aware of this story for some time in relation to Tina, and you were able to sit down with her and indeed to view some of the evidence in this case. Tell us all about it.
That's right, Isabel. Well, it's taken so much time because they've repeatedly requested South Yorkshire Police look into this case seriously. There was an original investigation, a subject access request, a victim's right to review, an appeal against that. It's been a very lengthy process indeed. But let's go right back to the start. Tina's appalling experiences started when she was just 11, exploited and abused by those gangs in Rotherham, which we know so much about now. But the police just did not act at the time. When she was made pregnant at the age of 12 by her abusers, they arrested some men, but two that admitted sexual contact with her were given cautions. No arrests, no serious investigations, certainly no charging. That changed about 15 years later when there were finally 15 years of waiting. This is just appalling. She said that her baby healed her in that process, but still had to endure those scars. Finally, there was an investigation. At least 5 men were jailed for abusing Tina. But as a consequence of those failures, she was given £50,000 by South Yorkshire Police, a compensation for that sort of neglect. It's not really a significant sum. It's not really enough to compensate for what she had endured. But soon after, she met a businessman who said that he could help her get a mortgage, support her with her life, invest your money with me and I'll improve it for you. He took 32 grand from her, which she's not had returned. That was over 7 years ago now. And during that process, in that coercive relationship that they had, it then extended into sexual abuse because he knew he had control over her. So again, she was being regroomed and exploited. He's also a firearms holder. We're not naming him as part of this investigation, but we've also heard concerning reports that he put a gun to her head. And we've also heard secret recordings of this man threatening her life and her children's lives. Now, the police basically didn't believe her when she brought this to them. They lost one of those key recordings, and even after that victim's right to review, they said, sorry, there's nothing we can do. The full story will be out tonight at 7 p.m, and I think I have a clip of that interview I can play for you now.
Listen.
Angry, upset, angry,
But for some reason, I felt like I had a bit of fight in me for it, because I thought, I can't sit back and let this happen again. I can't let them just chuck me down and do this on my own again.
It was bad enough when you were 12.
It were horrendous.
But again, you were going through the same process.
Yeah.
You're being ignored and neglected by the police while you were being exploited.
And I just know that they're not investigating things correctly. They're not.
Interesting that this has been taken not particularly seriously by the police. Just tell us about the man that she alleges was her abuser. Has he even been arrested?
There was one arrest years ago, and the police did recover a replica firearm from his house. But again, there was no charging. The investigation was dropped. They just said that there was no proof. In one of the case notes that I've seen, a police officer, a detective, says the victim has clearly lied and undermined the investigation. Now, I've not seen any compelling evidence, looking at this very holistically, to show that this victim has lied. In fact, I find her account very compelling, especially when you take into account the secret recordings that GB News has seen and will play tonight at 7.
To be fair, it sounds as though the police have taken notice of this now in light of what you've uncovered. What are they saying?
Well, we have a statement from Detective Superintendent James Axe, Head of Professional Standards, who said it's clear that Tina has suffered a horrendous ordeal which will undoubtedly have a profound impact on her for the rest of her life. An internal professional standards process is underway in relation to aspects of the handling of this case. In addition, a criminal investigation into the fraud allegations remains live. This investigation is being reviewed holistically to ensure all of the wider matters raised are taken into consideration and assessed against a criminal threshold. While these investigations remain ongoing, we are unable to comment any further. We continue to offer Tina support and safeguarding advice and provide updates on the matters she has raised when possible as this work continues. And just very quickly, I'd like to say that both the survivor of this situation, Tina, and a trusted friend of hers who's helped her were not aware that an investigation remained live. That's the response we've got from South Yorkshire Police. Yeah. It's their view, and it is indeed mine, that they've relaunched this investigation as a consequence of our very comprehensive statement to them, asking them for a response.
Yeah, OK. And that's the full story tonight, 7 p.m. from Nigel Farage's show.
That's right.
On GB News. Great. Thank you, Charlie.
Right, let's turn our attention, shall we, to farmers, this time particularly in the Midlands. They're set to gather at the rural capital of food in Melton Mowbray today to show support for the agricultural industry.
The group was set up this year to fight for the future of farming, and that was in response to the government's inheritance tax raid.
Well, green charities, including the wildlife trusts, have also shown their support for farmers, calling for the government to address England's broken agricultural sector.
Joining us now is our GB News East Midlands reporter, Will Hollis. Good morning, Will. What's going on where you are?
Good morning. The rural capital of food, because the food grown and produced in this region goes a long way to making Melton Mowbray pork pies and Stilton cheese. But today we're not talking so much about the food that's going to be on our Christmas table. We're talking about farmers and what the effect of the inheritance tax announced in Labour's budget from the end of October may mean for farmers. We saw a huge protest with 10,000 plus people in Parliament Square less than a month ago, but because it is such an important industry to farmers in the Midlands and Melton Mowbray, we're now seeing those protests and gatherings happening in smaller towns like Melton. Let's speak to a couple of the farmers and one of the organisers, Simon and Sam. Simon, why is this happening today in Melton Mowbray, which is much smaller than London but has a big contribution to farming?
Like you said, Will, pure and simple, Melton Mowbray being the rural capital of food, it will be against the it'd be against the law to not have it here. We need to have a show of strength in Melton Mowbray, because basically it's not just farming, it's the whole of the town that works for farming.
And then how many people might we see here today, and what would we see from this gathering, or as some people might call it, a protest against the inheritance tax announcements?
Well, it's not just against inheritance tax, this is a gathering against all of the aspects of the budget in relation to national insurance, minimum wage, stealth taxes on double cab pickups, you name it. whatever was in the budget, we're all fighting it. We're all under the same umbrella. We're hoping for hundreds, I'll dare say thousands, but until 11:30, 12 o'clock, we don't really know.
Simon, one of the organisers, but we've got Sam as well who's helping to organise. But you're both farmers. What might be the impact of on your farm, particularly about inheritance tax, which is leading the headlines around this budget?
Well, on our farm personally, it's on the next generation and look like paying a large amount of tax. But if we were making the profit, we wouldn't have we're not against paying tax. We would like to, we want to, but we need to educate the public on where our food comes from. It is from us farmers. We put it on the shelves in the supermarket ultimately, and we need some more back for it to help us farm.
What is the state of farming right now? Whenever I do a farming story, farmers don't tend to be very happy around how the industry is working right now.
Well, this is it. This is the final straw that broke the camel's back. It's not just the inheritance tax. It is the fact we aren't getting enough for our produce. We're not getting enough in our door to shell out for all these extras that are coming at us.
And I know that you're a dairy farmer. Does your dairy milk go anywhere to making Stilton cheese?
Oh, it goes to the very best, Colston Bassett.
Colston Bassett, a quick shout out for you. But there are, of course, other Stilton producers available. We've got Sam and Simon. It is very early in the morning right now, but around midday you will see hundreds, potentially thousands of farmers in Melton Mowbray, the rural capital of food.
Good stuff. Will Hollis, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Are you a cheese fan?
I'm a massive cheese fan.
Favourite?
Ooh, pressure. Well, I'm going to say cheddar because, you know, good British
Good
cheese.
old British cheese.
But I'm partial to a bit of brie. I love a stinky Stilton. Do you have a favourite?
Yeah, I do. Edam.
Edam,
Very
yeah.
bland, but...
No, but it's nice. It melts beautifully.
Yeah.
Edam or Gouda.
Camembert as well,
Ooh,
brie.
Yeah. That's one of my favourite things about Christmas is getting out the biscuits and the cheeses and all the
chutneys.
pickles and
Yeah.
I just love all that.
Good stuff.
Right, time now to get the Great British Giveaway for you. It's your chance to become the biggest ever winner. It's £50,000 in tax-free cash.
Yep, it's our biggest prize to date. Here's all the details you need to win.
Imagine getting the call to tell you that you've won £50,000 in tax-free cash, our biggest cash prize of the year.
Stay with us still to come. Bev and Andrew are coming up. They've got Britain's Newsroom at about 9:30. And also, we're going to have one more look today at your Christmas Advent special. I suppose that's what we want to call it.
Can't wait. Love these. Back in a sec.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Martin Daubney, weekdays from 3 p.m.
A Jaguar has ditched its growling big cat logo as part of what can only be described as a woke rebrand. The badge that has been used for decades, look at it, beautiful, on the bonnets of luxury cars has been swapped for a curved geometric J badge. They've also released a brand new advert, look at it, for their rebrand, which prompted Elon Musk to ask if the company actually sold cars. I thought this was a wind-up. It's not. It's true. Joining me now to discuss this is the motor and journalist Amanda Stratton. Amanda, what on earth is going on at Jaguar? The car of James Bond, Batman, Arthur Daley has gone off the scale woke. Please Make me make sense of it.
The E-Type is an absolutely iconic car, and it's important that people remember that, in fact, in its heyday, Jaguar was an incredibly prestigious brand, more so really than other British brands like Aston Martin, for example. But, you know, people in the industry are left sort of scratching their heads because you need to do something bold, you need to do something that catches people's attention, but you also need to stay true to who you are and what you are, and I'm not sure that this is it.
Amanda, that could be an advert for anything. It could be cat food. It could be Karl Lagerfeld. It could be literally anything apart from a Jag. Well, I mean, honestly, I mean, OK, we're talking about it. So we are talking about it, but we're not talking about it for the right reasons, are we?
And I think if I was going to be speculative here, I would like to think that this is actually all part of a cunning plan to get everybody talking about it. Yeah. So when they do launch the first new car that we're going to see, which, you know, people have been waiting, as I say, since 2001.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, though.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
If you want your news to be straight talking, this is the nightmare for the Conservatives again. Down to earth. It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it? And most importantly, honest. Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them. Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hello, welcome back. Now, let's revisit something that you viewers at home, including my dear mum, appreciate very much, which is our Advent countdown. Every day until Christmas, we're hearing from church ministers all across the country, and each day they have a very special message for you to celebrate the festive season.
The GB News Advent Calendar, Day 9.
Hello, my name is Marjorie and I'm a minister in the north of England. Most of Britain is familiar with the fact that we have a king, a monarch. In 2022, at the age of 73, King Charles ascended to the throne. Jesus Christ is the only person to have actually been born a king, and at Christmas we celebrate his arrival. In Matthew's Gospel, chapter 21, Jesus himself, towards the end of his life, declares his kingship. Behold, your king has come, riding on a donkey, gentle. Yes, his power is completely different to our understanding of power in the world. He did not ascend to power, he simply is power. And what an example of power he gave to us. And that is why, 2,000 years later, many people across our world on a daily basis continue to turn to the person of Jesus Christ. He will not overpower you, but he will empower you to know God. And so we invite you individually to know the presence and the power of Jesus at this Christmas time. And may Great Britain, the United Kingdom, recognise, behold, your king is coming.
There we go. If you are enjoying those, and I know, as Ben was saying, lots of people, including his mum Rose, are big fans, then you can go and check them out on our website. You get all the special Advent messages there. Go to gbnews.com/Advent.
Yes, looking forward to the rest of those until Christmas. Some views on your say about all of the day's stories. Talking about the Christmas tree in Trafalgar Square. Isabel and I were saying, you know, we've got some amazing Christmas trees in London, Covent Garden.
And indeed in here.
In here, yeah. They've done a good job.
They need to put one between us, I think, actually.
Or a little
Just
one,
think about that, or a little one on the...
Little one here.
Yeah, anyway.
But this one in Trafalgar Square has been causing a little bit of controversy because it was a gift from Norway to the UK every year. I don't know if we've got the picture, but it was a bit lacklustre this year, especially compared to one in New York.
Well, it's been likened to a corn on the cob, which says it all.
Jacqueline, you've said the tree is a gift. What's wrong with it is how it's been decorated. Shame on London and Sadiq Khan for its boring decoration. There we go.
This one from Broken Shadow. It says it's a lazy way to trim the tree. And again, blaming this poor old Mayor Khan getting a lot of hate for this tree. John Britton saying it's also decorated the traditional Norwegian way. Those are traditionally vertical white lights. You get rid of the tree, get rid of the Norwegian tradition.
That's a good point.
There we go.
That is a good point. But I'd like some more colourful lights. That's the only thing. And Lee, just on the tree, you've said, I've seen trees 10 times better in my local shopping centre than what they've put in Trafalgar Square. Utter shambles. Well, Lee, as I said, there's some great trees all across the UK. Covent Garden, King's Cross train station, elsewhere.
Lee Drake sums it up. I've seen trees 10 times better in my local shopping centre than what they've put in Trafalgar Square. What a shambles. Couldn't have said it better myself. Although Trafalgar Square definitely knocks the socks off the Rockefeller Centre in terms of a backdrop.
Yeah, beautiful location.
But the tree doesn't really live up to expectations, I don't think, is our own humble opinion this morning.
No.
We agreed on that. Right, we have Andrew and Bev in the studio with us with a preview of what's coming up in Britain's newsroom. Good morning to you. Lovely to see the dream team back together.
Thank you very much. Nice to have Andrew back with us after his holiday. Rested?
Yeah. Even though I went to Ireland, which is not a very restful place to be.
Gosh, was that wet and windy?
It wasn't wet, extraordinarily.
Was it not?
Last time I've been to Ireland, it didn't rain.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, lots of Guinness.
Lots of Guinness,
Ooh,
lovely. Were you on the hunt for your mother's...
There was a bit of that.
What was that?
Yeah, there was a bit of that for the book. Because there's going to be a paper
Looking forward to the second book.
Yeah, yes, but it was basically a holiday and it was very nice.
Oh, good. OK.
Right, Britain's Intelligence Services internship programme, but you're not allowed to apply if you are white. We're going to be discussing that. And bird flu vaccine stockpile controversy, lots. Don't go anywhere.
Is that even legal? That's a cliffhanger. We'll be back. Thanks very much.
We'll be back tomorrow from 6 a.m. Thank you for your company. We'll see you tomorrow. Have a good day. And it's Bev and Andrew next.
Heavy showers first thing will be followed by a warm, cosy day. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Good morning. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. After an unsettled weekend, it will still be windy in the south, dry in the north as higher pressure starts building. So it's a cold start across Northern Ireland and Scotland with a touch of frost, but plenty of winter sunshine. Cloudier across much of England and Wales. There will be some breaks in the cloud further west, but we will see some showers, especially across eastern areas and running down the English Channel. And we'll still hold on to quite a brisk breeze here. Highs of up to 8 or 9 degrees in the south, but colder across Scotland. Highs here of 4 to 6 degrees. So as we go through Monday evening, plenty of clear skies as we head into the evening across Scotland, so temperatures will quickly fall away underneath the higher pressure as well, and light winds. We will see a touch of frost and fog developing as we go through this evening. Similar picture across Northern Ireland as well, temperatures quickly falling away to give a touch of frost, but further towards the south across much of England and Wales, holding on to a lot of cloud this evening with some showers just clipping the far southeast and down the English Channel. So as we go through the overnight period, Monday night into Tuesday, plenty of clear skies across Scotland and Northern Ireland, and under the light winds, temperatures will quickly fall. A widespread frost to start Tuesday morning, but holding on to a lot of cloud further towards the south. Lows here of around 5 or 6 degrees. So through Tuesday morning then, a cold start across Scotland and Northern Ireland, but plenty of sunshine. Cloud just coming into the far north of Scotland, but a blanket of cloud across much of England and Wales, perhaps thick enough for some outbreaks of rain and drizzle. But on the whole, many places are staying largely dry with lighter winds compared to the weekend, but it will be feeling cold, especially in Scotland. Highs here struggling at around 3 degrees.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
The latest GB News travel.
Good morning, I'm Russell Holding. On the M9 in Edinburgh, there's a lane closed southbound at junction 1 for the A8 at Newbridge after an accident. There are queues towards there. In Antrim, the A2 is closed eastbound off junction 1 of the M3 after an accident causing queues heading out of Belfast. Irish ferry sailings are suspended between Holyhead and Dublin because of poor weather, with Stena Line sailing suspended there because of a technical problem. A number of train services aren't running today after problems with the weather across the weekend. In Ceredigion, the A45 M4 is closed each way east at Pontywydd because of a fallen tree. The M11 in Essex is closed southbound between junction 7A and 7 near Harlow after a van caught fire with long delays towards there. And in Devon, the A39 is closed each way between Sherwell and Kensbury Ford because of a fallen tree. That's the latest.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website, gbnews.com.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Recruiters are warning that if you're not tech savvy, you could be missing out with your CV failing to make it through an AI-powered sifting process. So we've gone from sort of computer says no HR people ticking boxes to AI, right? Is that right?
Yes, well, this applies once you're in the job as well, as a recent report revealed that employees expect AI will manage an average of a third of their tasks within the next 12 months. Well, joining us now to discuss this is Cosmo Curry, founder of Van Kaizen, a leading company in technology recruitment.
Morning, Cosmo.
Morning.
Good
Hi,
morning.
Ben.
Well, yeah,
Hi.
thank you for joining us. It's very interesting, isn't it? Because AI is, of course, on the rise and now in the workplace and in universities and things. Another article came to mind. There was a student recently, I think it was in the news just the other day, that got in trouble for using AI. So there's, you know, for exam purposes and essays. So there's lots of different ways that it can be a good thing and a bad thing. But you're, of course, here to talk about the ways in which AI is a good thing within the workplace.
Absolutely. I mean, AI is here to stay, for sure. And we're seeing this rise of people using it in such a clever format. The other side of it is also we're seeing people who are using it and during the process of that, they are losing their character. We're losing the actual insight into the individual behind that. And so we've kind of got this kind of mix. And I think AI is phenomenal when you're looking at it from a point of view of optimization, point of view of speed, getting results. But I think we have to remember that, you know, the fundamental of recruitment is people. And we cannot substitute the people, the personal aspect, by replacing that with AI.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Morning, 9:30 on Monday, the 9th of December, live across the UK. This is Britain's Newsroom with Andrew Pearce and Bev Turner.
So, very good morning. DEI, another day. Britain's intelligence services have launched a summer internship, but white British students are banned from applying. One MP says it's state-sponsored racism.
The American rappers Jay-Z and Sean Diddy Combs have been accused of raping a 13-year-old girl after the MTV Video Music Awards 2 decades ago. Jay-Z has vigorously denied the allegations and said his heart was broken for his wife Beyoncé and their family.
Well, guess what? Prime Minister's off on his jollies again. This time he's heading to Saudi Arabia for trade talks and to secure closer ties with the Gulf state. Well, that's marvellous, isn't it?
And the Chancellor of the Exchequer, Rachel Rees, is pushing for a business-like relationship with the EU today as she heads off to Brussels. She declares there'll be no chaos with the current government, unlike the previous one.
And in the Middle East, Syrian dictator Bashar al-Assad has fled to Moscow after rebels seized power in Damascus. Sir Keir Starmer welcomed the fall of his regime.
I welcome the fact that Assad has gone. The Syrian people had to put up with his brutal regime for far, far too long.
Midland farmers unite. They're rallying in Leicestershire this morning as more tractors will descend on Westminster in protest against the government's inheritance tax rate. That's coming up later this week. I think that makes Starmer's 16th or 17th trip abroad since he became Prime Minister.
Unbelievable.
Does he not? Is he tone deaf? Is he not alive to the criticism that there's a lot to do here?
No, doesn't seem to be that bothered, does he? And also, I think in terms of Syria, it's a bit like be careful what you wish